Our sound is live. Can you hear the voice? Can you hear a mysterious voice? What you're looking at is a Bachmann Spectrum model. We'll get to that in a minute. Just waiting for 4 p.m. Just another minute and a half or so. Welcome everybody. Use this time to say hello to everybody. Well, heck, let's just get started. I hate waiting. Do you hate waiting? So here we are. Last month we looked at all the HO scale models. This month we're going to look at all the N scale models. Welcome. I was showing you the Bachmann Spectrum model down here on the desk, and this box here is related to that, and I'll tell you the story in a minute, but I want to first start by welcoming everybody and thanking you for watching. As usual, your continued support is greatly appreciated. I want to mention that we do have the super chats and all that stuff live as usual if you want to use that to make your comments more noticed, or more noticeable. And also I should mention that if you look in the background here, you can see that I'm in the process of editing a video with, that's Jack Burgess. If your picture on your screen is big enough, you can probably tell. And the reason I have that up there is I was working on a video that was taken yesterday. The TSG train crew on Patreon got together for a virtual hangout with Jack, and he talked to everybody for probably a good 90 minutes or so. And I'm mentioning it because that's one of the perks of being part of the TSG train crew. And in case you're new to the channel or haven't seen it before, I call the people who support the channel on Patreon the TSG train crew. And so that's one of the perks. You can go to patreon.com/TSG Multimedia if you're interested in finding out more about that. So anyway, let's get started with the N scale collection now that it's 4 o'clock. So this box here is the actually second N scale train set that I got. The first one was by a company called Lifelike, not Proto, but just straight Lifelike. And it wasn't very lifelike and was a steaming pile of garbage. So it was given to me as a gift, which was a nice thought, but it just wasn't a very good piece of equipment. So I don't even remember what I did with it. I think I gave it to a kid or something like that. I really don't remember. But then I went to a hobby shop that was in a town nearby called Campbell, and I got this, which is a Bachmann Spectrum freight train. The Lifelike train set was a steam engine that had 2 speeds, go really fast and don't go at all. So I did some reading on the internet and found that Spectrum was Bachmann's best, and this was the only train set that I found that I was interested in. And it's empty now, as you can see. All that stuff is on the table, which is what I was going to show you, but it came with a locomotive and 5 cars as well as a caboose. And then track, power pack. Some of the track is still packed in here. The rest of the track, which is the curved pieces, I use as a circle to do my speed matching. And this was a lot better than the Lifelike train set. But it's still a train set, and, well, Bachmann isn't the best, but Spectrum is pretty good. So let's take a look now at the locomotive first. And you'll remember, if you watch this channel, the 9375 is a C40-8W, and I installed an ESU Loc-Sound Select micro decoder as well as a speaker in this locomotive, and it's one of the videos on the channel here, which you can look up if you'd like to. When this video is all done processing, I'm going to go ahead and put a card in the video stream so that you can see it. It'll pop up someplace up here. Let me see if I can show you. Somewhere up here in the right corner.
Gary was very excited by an empty box.
Yeah, Gary would like that empty box. So, and you know, it's funny. That wasn't, but we were talking earlier. Long story. I'll talk to you later, Gary. So this locomotive is actually not bad. I mean, when you look at it, it has fairly decent detail. The paint is actually really good on it, and the markings are also pretty good. It came with an LED that was really blue in the nose, so I replaced it with warm white LEDs. Like I said, you can see this whole process on the channel here. Just search for, I think it was just N-scale Bachmann, C40-8W or something like that, and you'll find it. So that's kind of how I got started. This was originally just a DC locomotive, and actually, if you know anybody who's interested, I'd be willing to sell this. I actually sold it to somebody. I actually almost sold it to somebody who just wanted it for the shell, and I was going to take out the decoder and speaker and all that stuff, but that kind of fell through, so I still have it. It's not really my favorite model, but I do like it, and I don't know. I wish it was an Atlas or Kato or something else, just because I'm not a huge fan of Bachmann. So the next piece of equipment here in the picture is a gondola that has a coal load in it, and you've seen this on the channel before too. As a matter of fact, it's the cover shot for the Model Railroading 101 video that was about adding weight to your rolling stock. This was the cover shot, and if I take the load out, you can see that I did add weight to it in the form of, it's not there, in the form of, I can't get the load out, in the form of a couple of bolts, or actually nuts. So it weighs the correct amount for the NMRA recommended. This hopper was also part of the train set, and I'm not sure what it was that I spilled on it, but on this side I spilled something on it that destroyed the logo, and so I kept it because I wanted to use it as a test piece for weathering. And as it stands right now, it has a very diluted black acrylic wash on it. You can kind of see where the water spots appeared up here. I didn't have the water thinned enough with Windex. Or, yeah, I guess that's the word for it. Thinned enough. Because you put Windex in with your washes so that the surface tension isn't as... I'm trying to think of the right terminology here. But it makes it so that the water runs better. And it's not supposed to leave marks like that. I'm still going to work on this one. And my intention eventually is to have it weathered enough and looking good enough that I can donate it to the South Bay Historical Railroad Society's N-scale layout. As a matter of fact, every piece of equipment that you see, the first, 9 or 10 pieces, are going to end up at the SBHRS on the layout there. All these Bachmann pieces that I'm showing you right now have the proper weight and are in the process of being weathered. One cool thing about these Bachmann Spectrum models is that they came with knuckle couplers, so I didn't have to replace the couplers. A lot of your sort of budget or cheaper stuff comes with the old Arnold Rapido style couplers. That's this stupid looking horn hook thing, and this is a model that we'll look at in a minute. But you can see the difference. If I put this here, you can see the difference between the two couplers. The horn hook thing is really huge, and the knuckle coupler is a lot smaller than that. and just looks more realistic, because this is actually more like a real coupler that you would see on a train. So let me put this back over here. And I've mentioned on a recent podcast that I started trying my hand at weathering. And since this is N scale, I figured I'd share it with you on this program. So what you're looking at is basically just a boxcar. And I'm sorry. Let me look again. Sorry, it's a reefer. Pacific Fruit Express is a reefer. And what I did with it was I used a combination of... The first step was just a wash, a diluted black acrylic wash. I did it over the sink because when I was applying the paint, it seemed like applying the wash, I should say, it seemed like it was going on too thick. And I had to wet the brush and take more and more of that paint off to get it to how I wanted it to be. And once I was done with the wash, then I used some weathering powders to give it sort of the dirty look and to make the seams along here kind of pop more. And sorry, I put some dull coat over it before I did the weathering powder. That way I could seal the wash in. Then I did the weathering powder, and I applied some kind of all over it, and I tried to get more down here so that it would look dirtier toward the bottom, because that's where all your dust and junk comes up as the train might be rolling down the track. It has the let me finish telling you about the weathering process. Then I sealed it again with some dull coat, and I used some colored pencils to pick out some highlights. Like up here in the roof walk, there's actually a lot of, it's probably hard to tell, but there's a lot of colored pencil. It's a light color in the roof walk to kind of make it look like it has more depth, because this molded plastic is really thick, but it just doesn't look that good. I think it looked a lot better once I got done with my colored pencil on it. And then I sealed that, and the last thing I did was rust streaks with pan pastels, and I think I used some weathering powders for that too. And what I tried to do with that is I took where the door track was and figured, water would drip down here. The door track ends here, so water would drip down here. And I don't know, I wasn't using a prototype photo for this. I was just doing it based on what I figured it would look like if it had been out somewhere. The other thing is I've been trying to figure out how the materials I'm using to weather these models will affect them. So as you can see, the end also had a lot of rust added to it. And then you can actually see it here. You can see little highlights on the tack board that I picked out with the colored pencil. And again, this is all just an experiment. I'm not an expert in weathering. I've been lucky enough to see people who are very good at weathering do it, and I think I picked up quite a bit from that. And I'm looking forward to doing more, and I'm going to show you the other ones that I'm going to do. What were you saying?
Sparky nicely pointed out that you have N-Scale Fridays where you show a lot of
that's
N-Scale stuff off, so people are liking this show.
That's true. If you're an N-scaler and you like N-scale models and you're new to the channel, just know that not every Friday, but on some Fridays, whenever I have something to share, I do a program that's called N-Scale Friday, and that's where I'm showing you new stuff that's from manufacturers. Sometimes it's new releases of old molds, maybe they put a new number on it or something like that. But that's one of my favorite shows to do, N-Scale Friday, because I think N-Scale is a little underrepresented when it comes to what's on YouTube. I don't think a lot of people show a whole lot of N-Scale stuff. So the next thing I want to show you, if I can, is...
Turbo 2582 says you could try using powdered graphite for weathering. It works well and it's cheap.
I thought of using powdered graphite just out of a pencil, because you can get a really good control with a pencil. And that, I think, would work for doing things like picking out the seams that I was showing you on the side of the car. So like I've said, I'm still experimenting with all this stuff. And I'm not by any means an expert on weathering. Not yet. I might be someday, but for now I'm just learning and trying different stuff. So let's go to the next piece here. This is a Santa Fe boxcar, and it's the same process. I used a wash on it, sealed it, used weathering powders, sealed it, used some pan pastels and colored pencils, and then I sealed it at the end of that. And I was particularly happy with how the roof turned out on this one. I thought it turned out pretty well. It doesn't look anything like it did when I first started. And I'm sorry I don't have a way to share before and after photos, but I did post pictures of all these models that I'm showing you that are weathered on the TSG Multimedia Facebook page. There's a whole, what do you call it, album of pictures from the projects of doing these weathering these cars. But as you can see on this one, it's really subtle, but this entire vertical piece of the Santa Fe cross herald was faded with a colored pencil. I was just trying to see what that would look like. I thought it looked pretty good. And the ends are also similar to how I did that yellow, the PFE reefer, or the whatever that thing was. I think it's a reefer. You know, I think it's a reefer, but it doesn't have the ice hatches in the top. So I'm assuming it must be a newer reefer that didn't use the ice hatches. But I did the same thing with this one, but because it's a sort of a reddish color, the rust effects that I used on it didn't show up as much. But I really was happy with how this one turned out. It just looks good to me. Like it's used, but not too used. Kind of subtle, really. And the one thing I do want to mention, because I was kind of proud of how these turned out, this was the first time ever that I tried to weather something. So I was really happy with how they turned out. So the next one I want to show you is this hopper. This also came with the Bachmann train set, and this one came out a little bit more weathered than I set out to do, but I still like it. I thought it turned out okay. I do think that if I were to do it over, or if I had another one to do, I would probably do it a little lighter than what I did on it. So, but yeah, that's that one.
We're liking your good and dirty looks.
Yeah, I'm usually more of a fan of subtle weathering, so this is a little, everything you've seen so far, maybe with the exception of that Santa Fe, the Santa Fe boxcar, are a little heavier handed than what I would normally want to do. So something else to mention is that these models also are all weighted. You know, I put the proper weight in them. They're actually, even some of them are a little heavier than what they should be. And finally, the caboose, which I haven't done anything with. I have to get some trucks with longer shank couplers on them. I'm not sure what I did with the trucks that came on this one, but you have to also remember that I've had this train set for a really long time, and you know, it's been around. I think I may have even moved once with it from the apartment that I lived at before I lived in the house where we are now to this house. So that's all the Bachmann train set stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and move some of these other models into the picture here so you can see what they are. And I think what I'll do is I'll just do them a couple at a time, because they're kind of, I have some duplicates of them, and I'm going to talk about what my plans are for them. So these are some cars that they came in this kind of box, industrial, okay? They were like $5 a piece at one of our local hobby stores that's been gone for a long time. And if you look on the bottom of them, you can see that they're actually made by Lifelike and then branded as whatever industrial is. And you can probably tell just from looking at it that they're not really that great. They're kind of cheesy and cheap. they're not even painted. This is the plastic that they're molded in, and it's a little bit translucent. You can kind of see through it. The graphics on them are not particularly great. The detail that's molded in is okay, but it's not great. They have those awful Arnold Rapido couplers that are garbage. Can't wait to take those off. So let me tell you what I'm going to do with these. I have my friend Walker Emery was nice enough to send me some trucks that have knuckle couplers on them. I think they're Atlas trucks. So they're not the best knuckle couplers, but they're better than this Arnold Rapido junk. So the first step that I'm going to do with these cars is to take them apart. Here, let me just show you. You can take these apart quite easily by just kind of spreading the sides, and then just kind of, oops, don't worry, it's a piece of junk. Spreading the side and then tapping it out. Okay, so it has a weight in it, but it doesn't weigh enough. So I'm going to get my automatic weight calculator, which is a sheet of paper. I should show you that because it's really cool. Can you hand me, do you see the slates back up in here?
Yeah.
Can you hand me that piece of paper that's there? So I'm going to add the correct amount of weight. I'll probably take out this junk that's in here and add some, little nuts or bolts or something. And then while the shell is off, I'm going to go ahead and weather the shell. I'm going to take off the trucks, and these just have these bolster pins. So all you have to do to take these off is carefully pull on them, and they just come out. Of course, now I'll probably break something just because I'm doing this on video. I'm planning to make a video about this process, by the way. I was going to call it polishing turds, but I don't know if people will watch something called polishing turds. But you see that the bolster pin is just this little deal here. And the new truck looks a lot like the old truck, only it has a knuckle coupler, right? So all you have to do to replace the coupler is put the new truck on there and then stick the bolster pin back through it and push down on it. That's how N-scale trucks work. And to be honest, I would prefer to have all body mounted knuckle couplers. It's part of the reason why I'm going to give all of these pieces of rolling stock to the SBHRS, because I don't think these are models that I'll end up using, even if I end up liking the way they turn out. And then I have my...
Hold on, somebody wants to know what you fix the colors after you use pencils with on there and stuff. What are you fixing it with?
Oh, I use dull coat, and you can use any matte medium, but this is the kind that I got, Tester's dull coat. It's just a spray on thing that, hold on a second, I'll see if I can get a better shot of it with the other angle that we haven't even used yet. Let's try it this way. Spray lacquer. It's just a flat sealing. It's a matte medium is what it is. So that's what you use to fix your stuff.
They're from Argentina, the person asked, so it's a matte finish.
Yeah, it's a matte finish.
Clear spray paint, basically.
Yeah, it's a clear matte spray. Matte meaning flat. So anyway, so that's what we're looking at, and I want to show you this because I think it's pretty cool. I don't remember where I got this idea, but it wasn't my idea. I got it on the internet someplace. I was doing the video about adding weight to your rolling stock a while back, and I went through the trouble of creating an app for your iPhone that you could use to calculate very quickly the NMRA recommended weight for either HO scale or N scale. And I put it up on the Apple App Store, and not a lot of them sold, like not even enough that it paid for itself. So I took it down. But when I was doing the adding weight to your rolling stock video, I came across this trick where, since we're looking at N scale, I'll just show you in this way. Basically, all you do is you mark it for each inch at, how much weight it should weigh. And then when you're going to check how much your rolling stock should weigh, you set this on your desk, you set your rolling stock on it, and then whatever's your nearest number. So in that case, we're looking at 1.1 ounces approximately.
Oh, ounces, not grams?
It's ounces.
Oh.
So it would be 1 1/10 of an ounce. Probably what I would do is get it to just over that. So this is a great trick, and I have it on the other side. I have HO scale. So now you're limited to how long your car is, just because by the sheet of paper, but it's really easy to make one of these, and it is so fast to calculate your weight just by putting your rolling stock right on the paper. It's just that simple.
Where did you get that information to make that?
The information is on the NMRA's website. There's a table that's called RP 20.1, I think. I don't remember what it is. If you look for NMRA recommended weight table or something like that, you'll find it. It's real easy to find. And then let me just switch to the other thing here. This is what I'm talking about. Put this on the table like this. Put your car on it. You could even do it like this if you want. And there's your number. 1.1. Easy. That is so easy and so fast. And whoever came up with this idea has my hats off to them.
Someone said Eric at IMRRO came up with the chart. I don't know who that is.
Eric at IMR. I don't think it was IMRRO where I saw this. I just don't remember. I think at the time the only other N scaler that was on YouTube much was Mike Pfeiffer, but I don't know if I saw that as an N scale trick or as an HO scale trick. So I just don't remember. But my hat's off to whoever came up with it. It's a great, great trick. And like I said, it is so fast and so efficient to figure out your weights that way. So anyway, I wanted to mention Walker, who sent me the trucks for this project that I'm working on, or going to be working on soon, has Instagram. If you don't already know who he is, he's a very, very talented N scaler.
They shared his page.
Oh, did someone already share his page? Wow. Did they share his Instagram too? His name?
Instagram.
Yeah, his name is Boxcar Tourist. And just a super great guy. Anyway, I'll put that back together later, I guess. So, let's look at the next one. Oh, I forgot to mention what I'm going to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do when we look at the last ones here. Here's the next one. This is a Great Northern boxcar of some sort. I'm guessing that these models probably aren't even really prototypical. I don't know that, but I'd be surprised if they are, just because of, the fact of they're kind of junk. I got these because they were cheap, and I just wanted something that would make my Bachmann train long. And at the time, I didn't even know about the different couplers. So when I got these home, I couldn't even use them with the Bachmann couplers, because it came with the Bachmann one had knuckle couplers, and these have these Arnold Rapido couplers. So again, I'm probably going to do the same approach with these. I'm probably going to use a wash and then some weathering powders, or I might just go straight to weathering powders. I really just haven't decided. But the last two are these Southern Pacific cars, and because I'm new to weathering, and because not all cars on a train look the same, I'm going to intentionally, with these and also with those yellow ones I was showing you a minute ago, I'm going to intentionally do one heavier and one lighter, so that I can try, different techniques to make it either very weathered or not so weathered. And I think that'll be a good exercise, because like I said, cars on trains are not all the same, and to have them look all the same would be pretty unrealistic. So that's what I'm going to do with those. Couplers, weight, weathering, and they'll be ready to go on to the SBHRS layout. And I'm looking forward to that, because I go to the SBHRS when it's open, when we don't have viruses to worry about. And I don't like to take all my models I'd rather just have a string of cars there that I can just hook up my power to and just take my power, because I don't care if it's perfectly 100% prototypical. I just want to pull a train around so that people who are visiting the layouts that day can watch it and enjoy themselves, have a good time is what I was going to say. So anyway, that'll do it for all the sort of introductory kind of junky cars. We're trying to wrangle all this stuff to actually put that up there. We're trying to wrangle all this stuff, and there's a lot to look at. So, all right. So our next one, you might remember from a product review a while back, and this is an Atlas SD9. It's the 5399, which is a real locomotive that works out of, I forget the name of the railroad, but it's up in Lebanon, Oregon. And this was one of the last critical reviews that I did, and I remember mentioning the very first thing I noticed was that it didn't have the SP Light package, which the prototype does have. So, but it still looks like an SD9, and it runs really well. This is one of their models that came with the Loc Sound Select Direct Micro decoder in it. Or actually, you know what? No. This one came with an NCE decoder. It was before they were selling them with sound. And I have it out on my desk floating around here because I intend to put a ESU Loc Sound Select Direct Micro into it. Because those are really the nicest decoders that I've found so far that fit easily into N-scale models that also do sound. So that's what's going to end up happening with that one.
We're calling that a Cadillac?
Yeah, that's a Cadillac.
John Dyson really likes it.
Yeah, as Kevin Hill says, it's a Cadillac and it's badass. It's badass. You'll remember that from an episode of Chasing Trains where I went with Kevin and his dad Curtis to a garden scale sort of swap meet that was out in Pleasanton. And I thought we were just going to the swap meet. Well, we were on our way home and Kevin was looking on his phone and he says, "Hey, Niles Canyon is running a beer train." I guess it was some train special excursion where you get to taste beers on the train or something. And so we're right there. So he says, "Hey, let's go check out the beer train." So we went and checked out the beer train, and I had my phone with me at the time. I did not bring a camera, which is very unusual. I almost always have a camera with me no matter what I'm doing, because you never know what'll happen, and this is one of those times. So I ended up making kind of a shorter episode of Chasing Trains with Kevin and Curtis, where we chased the beer train. We had a pizza picnic along the right-of-way, the Niles Canyon Railway right-of-way. No beer. We should have had beer. That would have been better. Pizza and beer, right?
Beer train.
So then we went down to the Santa Clara Depot and visited with John Wiley, who at the time was doing a lot of N-scale stuff. I don't think he does a lot of N-scale anymore. But anyway, we had a lot of fun, and you can see that video here on the channel. Just search for Chasing Trains in Niles Canyon or something like that. You'll find it. There's a bunch of Chasing Trains episodes from Niles Canyon. One just came out recently where they were doing the freight trains earlier this year. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, so this is our next model. This is from Atlas, and it's a Thrall 2743 Gone, lettered for Union Pacific, and you can tell it's a more modern prototype, or a more modern paint job, I should say, because it has the conspicuity stripes. These are little stripes that were added for visibility later. And this one it's a pretty nice model. It has the truck mounted couplers, and something that I'm a little bit, to be honest, a little disappointed with is that a lot of these models come with plastic wheels. And while it's good because they're not metal, so they don't look like a toy, you see how they're already sort of darkened? It just doesn't... Plastic tracks junk around the layout, and it makes your tracks dirtier. And if you run these around a layout where the track is getting gunked up with the stuff that they that they collect on their wheels, after a while you get little lumps on the wheels, and then as the model goes down the track, it's like you can see it bouncing on this gunk, and then the gunk goes off the wheel onto the track. So I just don't like plastic wheels. Now, I bought a bag of Exact Rail metal wheels a while back when I was in Salt Lake. Well, I went to Salt Lake City for the national convention last year, and I think that's when I bought the bag of wheels. And I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with this model, but having the truck mounted couplers makes it less likely that I'll want to keep it. I might weather that one and put it out on the layout as well. The next one that we're going to look at actually was on a fairly recent episode of N-Scale Friday. Setting it up in front of the camera here. This is a covered hopper. It's a Thrall 4750 covered hopper, and decorated in one of my favorite roads, the Burlington Northern. I've always liked that. I think they call that Cascade Green. And this is another one that has the plastic wheels and the truck mounted couplers. But it's a pretty cool model, and the paint on it's actually really nice. A lot of these newer models like this have printing on it that's so small but still legible. And I talk about this a lot, like this and down here. This is all legible if you magnify the crap out of it. It's a pretty nice model overall. Surprisingly, this is in their Trainman line, which is sort of their budget line. But a nice model overall. I think the roof walk is a little thick, but it's a fun model.
Tom McAdams says he remembers when everyone was replacing metal wheels with plastic wheels. Now it's the other way.
Is that right? I did not know that people ever replaced metal wheels with plastic wheels. But I can say this, though. I have some metal wheels that were on some old model. As a matter of fact, that Bachmann gondola that had the coal load, the Southern, they had Southern on the side, and I couldn't get the coal load out. That model has the kind of metal wheels that I'm about to describe. They're thick this way, right? So they're not prototypical at all, and they're certainly not to scale. And I think that the newer metal wheels are a bit more to scale, and that might be why people are going with the metal wheels, in addition to the benefits that I mentioned before about not tracking gunk all around a layout. So this is another coal car. It's a Johnstown, America Auto Flood 2, and this one it's kind of like a heritage unit, Ameren military veterans employees. And this is Exact Rail, and Exact Rail has Auto Flood 2s. They have a whole bunch of different road names and a ton of different numbers, and they have them, meaning they have them in stock right now. I think they were running a sale on these things, and they're pretty amazing models. The detail on the Exact Rail models and just the quality of the build and the design make them keepers for anybody. They have body mounted couplers. So this is you're gonna laugh when I say this, because I started saying this last time during the last time we did a live stream with my collection when I was doing the HO collection. This is one of my favorite models. It's just a good model overall. So let's get another one over here real quick. Any model will do. Okay, so the next one we have is from Atlas. I guess I should hand this back. The next model we have is from Atlas, and this is another Gone. Sorry for the delay. I'm still setting it up here. This is an Evans 52-foot Gone, and it's another Atlas model with truck-mounted couplers and plastic wheels. But it's a nice model. You know, the cool thing with Gons like this is it's an opportunity to be creative if you want to make custom loads for it. So it's a nice model. All right. Don't have too much to say about that one. It's not my favorite. I bet the next one will be, though. Okay. Oh, the next one is one of my favorites.
Stack those back there.
Oh, we got a whole bunch of these, actually. So every so often, Exactrail will have a crazy sale. And it's on those... It's at that kind of time when I find myself getting stuff that I probably don't really need, but they're so... It's such a screaming deal that I kind of have to get them. I know everybody who's watching...
It's on sale.
I know everyone who's watching can relate to this because it's a common problem with trained people. And
when your wives do it, don't give them crap.
Wives aren't trained people. They buy stupid things like shoes or, you know, purses. A new purse every week. So, it's a waffle boxcar. And this particular one that's out on the table here, oh, and it's a Pullman Standard 5277 waffle side boxcar. The writing on the package is so small it's hard for me to see. But I do want to point something out because this is pretty cool. If you look real carefully, you can see that these areas here are a different color from this and this and this. So it's like a patched car. Isn't that cool? And with Exactrail, there's a lot finer detail, and they always have metal wheels, and they always have body-mounted couplers. Now, this door is so well done that it looks like it'll slide open, but it doesn't. And I wanted to mention those patched areas because the other, or you know, most of the other models in this series, they aren't patched. So you get a good, kind of hard to see, you get a good variety with these. And because they had a bunch of different road numbers, I got a few of them. So, but yeah, these would especially look nice, all weathered up. Cool stuff. How are we doing on time here? Oh boy, we've already been going for 40 minutes. Is that right?
Yep.
Wow, I better speed this up, huh? We haven't even looked at all the locomotives yet. And there's a bunch of locomotives. It was funny, you know, last time when we were doing the HO scale collection, when we were getting ready, I looked at it and I was like, I didn't realize I had that much HO stuff. This time we were doing the N scale stuff, and I kind of knew I had a bunch. And you know, I think more, especially more locomotives than what I have in HO scale. But I didn't realize, you know, how many I actually have until I started, you know, pulling them all out of the cabinet and stuff. One thing is that you know if you watch the channel is I don't have a layout, and I'm not pretending to build a layout or anything like that. I use the layout at the SBHRS when I can, when there's not a pandemic going on. And so all my stuff does end up being stored, especially the N-scale stuff, except the stuff I tend to keep stuff out that I'm, you know, working on or think I'm working on, if you know what I mean. Stuff that I want to be working on, I keep it out so that it's kind of top of mind awareness. I don't know if that makes any sense, because otherwise, if it's packed up in a closet someplace or in a box, it may be 20 years before I ever see it again, and I won't even know why I have it. So the next one that we're going to look at should look very familiar to you. This is a GP35. You know how I know that? Because it says so right here. This Atlas GP35 has DCC and sound, and it runs really well. This was on last week's N-Scale Friday, like the day before yesterday. And it's a really nice runner. Well, actually, you know, all of Atlas's N-Scale locomotives that I have are excellent runners. I don't know how they make them run so slowly. And I do want to mention that somebody was complaining in the video about a little smudge. I'm going to show you this because I did notice it. There's a little smudge in the paint down in here between where the red is and the white. And someone complained. They said, oh, you didn't mention anything about that. And they're right. Because the product spotlights that I do, which N Scale Friday is basically just an N Scale product spotlight, they're not critical reviews. And they're not intended to be critical reviews. They're intended to show you what came out of the box when I got this. So.
Some of us couldn't even notice that.
Yeah, I was showing it to the top secret model critic over here, and she didn't even see it. So, which actually, when you think about it, is kind of a testament to the close-ups that I get for you guys when I do the product spotlights. Because I get really close up there, and I light everything so that you can actually see stuff. Otherwise...
So unrealistic lighting conditions. Yeah,
it's unrealistic lighting and extreme close-ups. And I think that by doing it that way, it really... I think it's almost unfair to manufacturers to be that close up, because when you look at a model like this, you're 3 or 4 feet away. And to be honest, if I set this down on a track someplace and just look at it with the naked eye, even with glasses on, I wouldn't see that little smudge. So, take it for what it's worth. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Next we have another Atlas model. And this is another cool one. I haven't had a chance really to do anything with this one. I'm being really careful because all these models are very fragile. And the last thing you want to do is drop one on the floor. This one is really cool though. Let me get it in the shot here. Make it look good. We're posing the models. I'm going to take the foam out of the handrail so that it looks better. Here we go. Check this thing out. This is a cool model. There we go. This is your SD60E Norfolk Southern Heritage Unit, Veterans Unit. And this is one that it's kind of outside my area of interest, if you will, in a way, because I don't really model anything back east. But it's just a cool model, right? I mean, it's one of those, there's something about these that I remember reading when I did the product spotlight on this one a while back, that the cabs were rebuilt. That's why it has such an odd looking cab. But this is another one that's DCC in sound. It has the ESU decoder in it. It's a really nice model, and another one that runs like these models are so good at slow speeds. They're pretty amazing. I'm not going to take all the foam out of the handrails. I'm just giving you an idea of what it looks like here. Another great model. I really wish that I had a layout here, because I'd probably run these things all the time. You'd probably see a lot more model run-bys on the channel if I had a layout to run them on. So, and I'd find some excuse to have a Norfolk Southern SD60E. Why not? Okay, so the next one we're looking at is actually 2. And they're both from Atlas. And one of these is a recent N-Scale Friday model. And gotta go ahead and take the foam out of the handrails for this, just so you can see them better. One of them is a GP40, and the other one is a GP30. And they're both, I know a lot of people are gonna really like this. They're both Rio Grande units. And the more recent one is the GP30 that I got 2 months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And I mentioned on the product spotlight that I had a GP40 I was going to run it with eventually. And that would be this guy, 3054. These both have DCC and sound. And if I remember right, this one came with it. This came from Atlas with a decoder and a speaker. I added the decoder and the speaker to this one because this was a DC model when I got it. But aren't those cool? There's something about Rio Grande's livery. I don't know what it is. I just find it really pleasing to look at. And I'm not like a big Halloween fan or anything, so I don't know. I can't explain it. I just like it a lot. It's kind of like, do you know what it's like? It's like the red and white. I mentioned that on a recent product, or I was going to say product spotlight. I mentioned that on the N Scale Friday episode with that GP35 we just looked at a minute ago, that there's something about red and white that I really like. And there's also something about the Rio Grande that I really like. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's real. So every time I see a Rio Grande picture, there's a guy on Facebook from the Salt Lake City area named Jim Belmont. We met him when we were in Salt Lake City in July last year, and he has a lot of pictures that he posts of Rio Grande. And every time I see one of those, I'm just like, oh, that's cool. You know, I sound like Beavis and Butthead, you know, it's cool. So anyway, that's the, whoops, got to put these in the right boxes here.
Several people are saying they think you have room for a shelf layout right above your monitors there.
Back here?
Yeah.
I don't think
they
so.
They see empty space, and so it must be filled, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not very long. I mean, yeah, you could run a train on it, but what would you do? Just switch one or two cars? I mean,
We have a module that you could use.
Yeah, I'm into operations, but I think just switching one or two cars back and forth on something that small wouldn't be particularly...
These go back in the case.
That one goes in the case. The one in the box stays in the box. Yeah. Need a drink. Starting to get a little hoarse. Yeah, something else I want to mention. It's hot out here today. We have the window open and the fan going because it's hot. So here's what I'm going to do with this. I'll put this one on first, and then I'll bring in the one that I'm holding here in a second. This is an interesting story.
I have to tell you something. Container Man says if he can get an N-scale layout in a sleeper bunk
in the truck, I know.
Then you have room.
I know, Roy. I know. But you know, if you want to come over here and build it for me.
Not all of us are that dedicated.
Well, I'm dedicated, but I don't really have time to build something. Here's the problem. If I were to build a layout right now, I have to learn how to do everything. Well, I also have a channel that I'm trying to keep up and try to put something out every week, and I don't have time to learn everything, build it, and do videos at the same time. I have to sleep at some point, you know?
Your hobby is video, but appreciating the trains as well. That's more your hobby.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
You know, really my hobby is bringing cool stuff to the public. That's what my hobby really is. Now, do I like trains? Yes. Do I play with them? Yes. I like that. And I enjoy operating them, and I enjoy working on them. And I really enjoyed weathering the cars that I showed you earlier. But I also have to be realistic and know what my limitations are. I do not have enough time to do everything that I want to do. Not if I want to sleep also. So, yeah, there's kind of space right there, but kind of not time. So, it's always dealing with space and time, no matter what. So, this is actually an SD70, and
they're saying that's a series in itself, building a small layout.
It is a series, and it is a series in itself, and chances are that someday I will build a layout. I have a module. It's a 2x4 module. It has legs. It has the foam base. It's ready to go. I just need to have the time to do something with it. And, you know, now I know how to do DCC. Now I'm learning how to do some weathering. Probably when I'm done figuring out how to weather stuff, then I'll start looking at scenery and other stuff. I just can't do everything all at once and have a channel at the same time. Yeah, it just, you know, it's not going to work that way. Some guys are crazy. You know, our friend Gary is out in his garage building his layout 24/7. I think he sleeps out there. So, but he's also in a race and he's going to win. So back to the SD70. And I want to tell you, because there's kind of a story behind this SD70. Union Pacific never had SD70s. So what, and this is from Athearn, by the way. So what Athearn did was they gave it a legitimate number that was for an SD60. So it's a great stand-in as an SD60. And it's a nice model. I remember when I did the product spotlight on this, I pointed out how the grills have a little bit darker paint treatment in them so that they have depth that you don't really see otherwise. And more recently, Atlas had a run of actual SD60s. And I got one of those. And it's numbered in the same series there. 2225, right? And 2219. So what I'm going to do with these is once I get them speed matched, I'm going to run them together. And that is going to look really cool. I can't wait to see this power lash up pulling a train around. I think that's pretty darn cool. And you can see the SD70 is a great stand-in. I mean, the grills and everything are very, very similar to an SD60. I left the foam in here. I guess I should have taken that out. But isn't that cool? It's almost like a matched set. I'm sure that hardcore foamers probably see the difference. Like I'm guessing if you look here, this one has a brake wheel, but this one doesn't. That's probably because the 70 has it there and the 60 doesn't. You know, there's always these little spotting features, you know, like, oh, that one has an extra door on it or an extra latch somewhere. You know what? If you put these down on the layout, especially if I get them weathered and looking good, put these down on the layout, nobody looking at them driving around on the layout or running around on the layout is going to say, oh, that's an SD70 and that's an SD60. And you know what? If they do, I don't care. I think it's going to look cool once I get around to getting these things done. And I really like that they're in the same number series. That makes them even better. So, and then the SD70 actually is part of a much bigger sort of order of those that I got from Athearn at some point in the not too distant past. So we're going to look at some more SD70s here in a second. And there's actually a story for the other ones too. And the story for the other ones, this goes back in here. The story for the other SD70s is that one of them is done. And I did a video of myself installing the DCC into it. And it's this Norfolk Southern one that you're about to see. Oh, yeah. So there's actually 3 more SD70s that we're going to look at. And 2 of them are current projects that I'm, you know, it's always a matter of time, like I was saying before. I have the decoders for them. I have the speakers for them. I just need to find time to do the work on them. But they're pretty cool. These Athearn SD70s are really nice. And I'm pretty sure that the rest of the ones I'm about to show you right now are not Fubies, like that UP one I just showed you a minute ago. So I'm just get the foam out of this one real quick. So here we go. We have this Norfolk Southern, and you can see the Conrail behind it. This one has ESU Loc Sound Select Direct Micro. That's the board replacement decoder, and a speaker, just like the Union Pacific one I showed you a minute ago, the Fubi, the 2219, I think that one was. So this one already runs. It's already good. If you search for N-Scale SD70 DCC installation or something like that, you'll find the video of me putting DCC in here. And I did fit a speaker in there. One of the cool things about these SD70s, and it's a video that I intend to do one of these days, is that the cab comes out. And you can see my custom wiring job in there too, if you look. See the decoders in there. the cab comes out, and I measured it and found that if I take the cab interior out, I could fit a speaker in here. So one of my future, it's on my to-do list when I get a chance, is to put a speaker enclosure or build a speaker enclosure out of the cab of one of these, because it'll sound better than what I've done with my speakers in these that I've already put in, which was just to stick them on a piece of plastic, a thin piece of styrene. If I put them in an actual enclosure, the sound will be much, much better. So that's what I intend to do with these eventually. And now I took the cab off and I can't put it back on. That sucks. Oh, here we go. Here, maybe put that back in there. I can't. Just put it back in the box somewhere. Oh, this goes with it, between the handrails. Okay, so let's look at the Conrail one. Again, it's just another SD70.
You have the box.
I do? Oh, I have the box. No, this box. Yeah. So the Conrail one and the Illinois Central one, these both don't have decoders or anything in them right now, because I took what was in there out, and I was going to do a bunch of decoder work on them, and then I got involved with something else. You know how it is. But they're nice models, and they run well too. One thing I've noticed, and I'm not sure why it's this way, but I noticed that the Athearn models, N-scale models, run way faster than the Atlas ones. And I think it has something to do with the mechanism, because Atlas does pride itself on having something called a slow speed mechanism or something like that. So, oops, that's the right one. Okay. So, speed matching them might be a little bit of a challenge. I don't know, because I haven't tried to speed match them yet. And to be honest, right now, because of the pandemic, the SBHRS is not open for running anyway. So even if I wanted to run these, I wanted to run the Atlas SD60 with the Athearn SD70, the 2219 and the 2225 I was just showing you a minute ago. I can't because it's not open, but I also haven't speed matched those yet. So I will eventually. It's just a matter of time. All right, so we have more Exact Rail. These are really nice. All right. Switching to that camera. This is an Evans 5277 boxcar. And, again, this is an Exact Rail model. Very highly detailed all over, very fine details. Metal wheels and body mounted couplers, and just detail that makes you think that all this stuff is separately applied parts. It's not all of it is, but some of it is. Some of the ladders and the brake wheel and stuff separately applied. But the other cool thing about the Exact Rail models is look at the brake detail on these things. All Exact Rail models are like this. They have a full brake rigging underneath. And I've heard people say that, oh well, it's underneath, so what does it matter? You're never going to see that anyway. And I kind of understand what they mean by that. But when you do look at it, it sure looks cool, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean that's cool stuff. I like it.
Here, I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. Exact Rail's models are definitely among the best. Here's a favorite of mine. This is an Atlas model that we're going to see next. And I need to be careful because it has extra parts that I never put on it. But this is definitely one of my favorites. This is the Atlas BX166 Santa Fe boxcar. And it's a 60-foot boxcar. And this is... Atlas bought the tooling from BLMA, which was a former competitor to them. And you can see here, I'm going to switch cameras real quick. You can see that it has detail on it that is not like most N scale. This is right up there with Exact Rail, I think. Some of it might even be even finer than Exact Rail, but just looking at the detail in the doors, and again, this also has full separately applied brake rigging, metal wheels, body mounted couplers. This is a really high-end, nice model, and this even has uncoupling levers. See that right here? And it also has an air hose. I don't know if you can see that on that camera. Let's try on the other one.
I like that car.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites, and it's one of yours too. Isn't that nice? This is just not the kind of detail that you could have ever seen in the past. And it's just amazing. Every time I get one of these, oh, the air hose is flopping around. I better be careful putting that back. I don't want to lose it. I wonder why it's flopping around like that.
What?
The air hose is flopping around. Well, I'm going to have to maybe set that aside someplace different so I can fix that. So, I need a drink. I should have had beer in here. We have a case of that 805 beer. You ever had that? Firestone Walker? My friend
Here's
Dave's...
one that'll be one of your favorites.
Yeah, this is also one of my favorites. My friend Dave Stanley's favorite beer is 805. So, anytime I see 805, I think of Dave Stanley.
And usually message him.
I usually send him a picture of whatever I'm eating with my 805 and say, hey, I just thought of you. And he always gets a laugh out of that. He's probably laughing at me. I know I would. So, when I said this is one of my favorites, you'll see why in a second. Because I mentioned this last time at the HO scale video. This is a former BLMA tank car. So this is from Atlas. It has the truck-mounted couplers, but you can't really body mount couplers on a tank car for some reason. And I have other tank cars that we'll look at later that are the same. They're truck-mounted. But it's a cool tank car. And if you look down here, you can see all the detail underneath. All this stuff is visible going down the track. So this is one that you really kind of need to have that detail. And if I remember right, when I did the product spotlight or N Scale Friday of this model, I think that all the writing on it was legible too. You know, even the stuff that's down in here, I think that was all legible too. But it's just a really finely detailed car and has, you know, super small little, you know, like the hand. Look at the rails on it. This is just a cool model. I really like this one a lot. And I think you can see why, right? I mean, I'm not crazy. It's just a cool model. I think I'll go ahead and put this one away because it's so fragile. I'd rather be the one to break something if something's going to break on it. Yeah, I mean, look at the ladder on this thing. That's just really small, thin, you know. What a nice model. Okay.
Yep, they're liking that.
Yeah, it's one of your favorites too, isn't it? Raise your hand if that's one of your favorites. Oh wait, we can't see you. All right. This is another really nice, really cool model.
Someone's grilling outside.
Yeah, someone's barbecuing outside. We got the window open because it's hot today, and someone's got a barbecue going on out there, and I'm getting a little hungry. Something tells me we won't be going for 2.5 hours this time. All right, so let's take a look at this guy. This is another Exact Rail model. It's an Evans 5277, so it's along the same line as the other 5277 we were looking at a minute ago, but just decorated for a different road. This is a Canadian National, obviously. And again, it's a newer scheme. It has the conspicuity stripes. That's something that I think they started adding those in the 90s at some point. I don't remember for sure, but I do think it was the 90s. And once again, just like the other, you can see that it has a lot of underbody detail. So, very cool. Body mounted couplers, metal wheels, excellent model. This one thing I will tell you that I would never hesitate to recommend Exact Rail products to anybody because they are really great products. And you know, they're cool guys too. you might have noticed I did an interview with Chris Brimley, and I've known him now for 2 or 3 years. And there's another guy that works for ExactRail that I've known for even longer, because they used to send product samples for product reviews, and their products really stand up, compared to anybody else's. As does the one I'm about to show you here. This is another Atlas model, and boy, is this one nice. You're gonna really like this one a lot. It's so. I remember when I did the product spotlight on this one, the N Scale Friday episode, this thing stole the show, and that's exactly what I said about it on that program, that it stole the show because of how good it is. Check this thing out. This is awesome. Again, this is Atlas, and this is an air slide covered hopper. Let's see. It says 41. I can't read it. I think it's a 4180, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't have my... Oh, I should mention this. You guys will get a kick out of this. I don't have my visor in here. And the reason why is because our top secret associate producer here is building a model. Jack Burgess gave me a model of, I think it was a USRA boxcar about 2 years ago, and he was going to give them away to something. So he says, hey, you want one of these? And I thought, oh, I'd like to build a model sometime. Someday I'll get around to it, and I think it would be fun. So I took it. Took a couple, actually. There's also a Gone and a couple of automobiles. So I took the models, and they've been sitting in my projects cabinet here. I have a lot of projects that I'm going to get done. It just takes time, and I need to find time and motivation to do it. But so she took that USRA boxcar, and she's building it now. And so we're thinking about, and I want to ask you guys this. I'm thinking about doing a video about her building a model. And I want to know if you guys think you'd like to see that, because I don't think she's ever built a model before, any model.
C3PO with my dad.
C3PO 40 years ago, 50 years ago. That doesn't count because your dad helped.
Yeah.
So, do you want to see a video of her building a model, a train model? I do. I think it would be kind of cool, because one of the things that I wanted to do was, as part of sort of encouraging people to do things they haven't done before, is to do it myself. That's why I started doing DCC installations. And if you've watched my DCC installations, I always finish them very intentionally with, if I can do it, you can do it too. Because I had never installed a DCC decoder ever in my life, and then I started to do it. And I was making videos of myself doing it to prove that it's not that hard. So I think if we have her do a model, maybe it will even motivate me to build a model. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like making the hobby more accessible by doing things that I haven't done, or by us doing things that we haven't done before. I think it's a cool way to promote the hobby. So anyway, back to the hopper.
There's lots of yeses on that.
Yeah. So
Gary says send it.
Yeah, so we'll probably do that at some point. And I don't know if we'll do it on the USRA boxcar or not. She might be too far along without having documented anything. But
I took photos.
Okay, well, she took photos, so maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll talk about that on the next Shelter in Place Live if we have to do this again. Anyway, back to this, because this is just a cool model. Look at all that detail underneath. And it is visible when it's going down the track, so you kind of need to have that. And this is, in fact, an Atlas model. It came with blackened metal wheels and body-mounted couplers. So this is really top of the line. And this is all photo-etched stuff, the walkway. This is just a really excellent model. You can see the photo-etched crossover platform, or brake stand. I guess it's a brake platform here. And a separately applied brake wheel, right? Excellent, excellent model. It has an uncoupling lever, and I don't see an air hose on it, but That's about the only thing you might need to add to this is an air hose, but just an amazing model. I just couldn't get over when I saw this. Couldn't get over how good the underbody detail was. What a great model. Very, very impressed with that one. And I'm sure you can see why. You know, a lot of these models get into the $40 range. And, you know, that's a lot for a model. And I think it's a lot for a model too. But I gotta say, though, if you were to try to super detail an N-scale hopper to look like this, I think you'd spend more time than what $40 is worth. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if you work at a minimum wage job that's, you know, 10 or 12 bucks an hour, something like that. I don't know what's minimum these days. It's different in different places. I think where we live, it's about 15 bucks an hour. You could not super detail this car in 2 hours. I don't think so. I just don't think so. Because, you know, you'd have to pay 20 bucks for the car, and then you'd have to pay for the parts. Then there's the time. Now, if that's what you enjoy in the hobby, super detailing stuff, then great. Don't buy the $40 or $50 models. But if you'd rather be able to take something out of its package, put it on the layout and run it, or just have to weather it and then run it, then some of these highly detailed models are really, if you think of it that way, they're a bargain, because that's a huge time saver for somebody to not have to do all that stuff. I think I've mentioned that on the product spotlights and other programs similar to like N-Scale Friday, but I really think it's worth thinking about, because I know a lot of people love to complain about how expensive things are, and the fact that it's made in China. That's another big complaint that people have. But my understanding from the people that I've talked to in the industry, you know, people who work for manufacturers or are manufacturers, it's kind of cost prohibitive to manufacture stuff elsewhere. And frankly, I don't think, even as stuff is manufactured in China and costs $40 for a model, and people complain about that, if it was made in America, it would probably cost $100, and then no one would buy it, and everybody would have something even bigger to complain about. So it's just the state of things right now.
Why Are You Naked says they would sell way more models by making them kits and allowing the user to assemble for less retail price.
I think that Rob has a point, but you have to be someone who likes to assemble models for that to be the case. Yeah. And I think time is at a premium, and I do think that there are fewer sort of craftsmen out there, you know, who want to build stuff. I think people want to run stuff, and I don't know why that is. Yeah, I don't know why that is, but I think more people are into the running and fewer people are into the building. At least that's my perception, and I might be wrong about that. I don't know. So I'm really just going based on my own hunch, if you will. I don't have any scientific surveys to prove what I'm saying. Anyway, this is an Atlas Master Line freight car. It's a 3,500 cubic foot dry flow covered hopper. And again, this is one of their nicer models. You can see that the roof walk is a photo etched part, and the hatch detail on this one is really nice. This is one of those, well, you know, I like Burlington Northern too, so this is definitely one that's staying in the collection probably forever. Separately applied pieces, right? The brake wheel. It has no air hose and no uncoupling lever, but just the detail on it is super, super good. And the fact that it has the photo etched roof walk and all that stuff, it's just a cool looking model. And I think it's one that I'd be happy to say is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites because it's Burlington Northern, but it's also one of my favorites because it's just a cool model.
And it's green.
And it's green. Green's my favorite color for some reason.
They said, someone says Microtrains is U.S.?
Yeah, Microtrains is made in the U.S. And I know someone from Microtrains. I'm friends with him on Facebook. I want to talk to him.
Good interview.
I want to talk to him sometime and pick his brain about that. But I was going to point out real quick the body mounted coupler and metal wheels. So this is definitely one of those keep it in the collection for a long time. Just a cool model. like that one a lot. All right. We still have a bunch of stuff to do. We're getting to the locomotives, though. It's going to get more interesting here in a minute. I need another drink.
You now can pick from the box.
Oh, we're up to the box now. And I have my notes so that I don't mess up telling you what these are.
One of these.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh, wow.
I mentioned about... Well, luckily the model didn't fall. It was just a truck and a pin. A bolster pin.
I have no idea where that tiny thing went.
I heard it bouncing around.
Later. We'll look for it later.
I heard it bouncing around. Well, luckily I have a bolster pin on my workbench here, so why don't I just put this back on? I'm just going to put this back on real quick. And whoops. Oh, there goes the truck.
Here, just show another one.
Oh boy. Oh, there's the other bolster pin. Boy, this is just a real... I was going to say it's a shit show, but I'm not allowed to say that, am I? This is a family show.
They want to know what you're drinking. Nothing interesting.
Yeah, I don't have any drinks right now. Maybe I should. I'd probably be better.
Cup,
well, I have water.
yeah.
That really is just water. Yeah, here's the
805 will come later.
Yeah, here's the problem with N scale. It's so small, and it's hard to deal with.
You got your visor.
But I want to mention that on this model because, oh, I'm putting it on. Is that upside down? What's going on? Oh, I'm putting it on upside down. What an idiot. Oh, no, I'm not. I was trying to put it in the wrong hole. I didn't just say that, did I?
No comments.
Yeah, don't comment about that. Yeah, I'm going to have to fix that later. Give me another one of those. Okay.
You're starting to wonder if your drink's leaded or unleaded.
No, it's just water. I was gonna show you. I'll pour it out over my head, but I don't want to do that because there's too much stuff in here that could get ruined by water.
Electronics.
Yeah, electronics or whatever. So I have a couple of these. I actually have 3 of them, and these are tank cars by Roundhouse. So let me switch to the other camera here, and you can see what I'm looking at. The one that the truck fell out of is over here. I'll just set it over here. You can pretend it has an attached truck now.
Sparky super chatted $10 and said,
Oh.
fill that cup up with beer and then watch
Yeah.
the parts fly.
That's Sparky for you. He probably wants us to drink some Canadian beer. Molson, eh? I think Molson's Canadian, isn't it? So these are Roundhouse, and they're just called on the what do you call it? On the box, it's called a modern tank car. So I don't know that these really have any specific prototype that they follow. And I picked these up at the SBHRS open house a few years ago. They had these for, I think it was like, $5 a piece or something like that. And they're not excellent models, but at the time I didn't have any tank cars. And so I bought these, and they came with no trucks. It was just the tank car, and that's it. But otherwise it was, assembled up to that point. So I bought some Microtrains trucks and put them together. And they're weighted, so they track really well. But because they're tank cars, they're, again, truck-mounted couplers. And, interestingly, it looks like they still have their plastic wheels on them. So I'm going to have to go ahead and put my metal wheels on before I run those again. And I have a whole bag. I have probably enough metal wheels for another 45 cars right now, because I got a huge bag of those metal wheels. I started to tell you that when I was in Utah a while back. I think it was last July. So we're going to have to be careful with this one. Or actually, let's just set this one out aside. Well, actually, let's set all of these aside because I want to put the metal wheels in them.
Scoop them over, then on your...
I'll put them over here. All right, oops. I'll put them over here. I'll replace the wheels with metal wheels, and I'll get that other truck reattached.
Metal Models makes an upgrade kit for those tank cars.
Really? Gold Metal Models? I've never heard of that one. All right. So, You remember the BX 166? This next one is a BX 177. And I showed you these same two cars on our HO scale program last month, but in HO scale. And these are also, let's do this, in N scale, former BLMA. They have the metal wheels, they have uncoupling levers, they have air hoses, they have detail on them that used to be completely unheard of in N scale. I mean, really, I think that companies popping up like ExactRail forced a lot of other companies to really up their game, because this is not something you would have seen in N scale 15 years ago. It's just really amazing, or 20 years ago. It's just really amazing detail, and it's all separately applied, everything. The ladders, well, these on the side are molded, but the ladders on the end, well, it's hard to tell. It's so finely rendered that it's hard to tell if it's separately applied or not, but it looks separately applied. The more impressive thing about this car and the BX 166 is the fact that they have the uncoupling levers and the air hoses. That's pretty darn cool. So there's that one. I would say this is one of my favorite cars, and it is. Oh, got to be really careful with this one with all these fragile parts on it. So the next one was also, let me pull it out carefully here, was also an SBHRS open house find. One of the great things about the SBHRS open houses is that they have these, they call it the company store. And the company store is models that either members are selling on consignment through the event, or maybe they were a part of someone's estate that was donated by a family. Someone died and the family donated the estate to the SBHRS to raise funds. So they have a company store in the main freight room during their open houses, which normally happen in April and in November. We did not have one in April because of the pandemic, and it seems like with every week that passes, I'm wondering if we're even going to be able to have one in November or even in April next year, because it just doesn't seem like people are taking the pandemic seriously enough, if you ask me. But that's just my opinion. I only read scientific stuff. I don't read any of the propaganda. So this is a Southern Pacific bay window caboose, and I realized that I needed a caboose because most of the motive power that I have that's Southern Pacific is from before the 90s, like GP 40s and SD 35s and stuff like that, which we're going to see here in a minute. So when I saw this, I thought, I need this because I don't have a caboose otherwise. That Union Pacific caboose that came with the train set, the Bachmann train set, one, isn't very good anyway, and two, it's in pieces. So it's a project, and it's the wrong railroad. I'm not, my primary N scale stuff is Southern Pacific. So, which, like I said, we're going to get to it, so don't worry. So this was the caboose I got for that, and I think it might be a Micro Trains. I don't remember. I think I still have the box around here somewhere, but it's a nice model overall.
Dyson says pick him up some WP stuff if they have any.
Well, right, but if I see WP stuff, I might pick it up for myself.
Yeah, really.
Because I like Western Pacific. Yeah, I think I like all of the Western railroads. Southern Pacific is probably really my favorite one, because I think that's what I saw most of when I was a kid. And I saw Western Pacific when I was a kid, and I do like WP quite a bit. I think I like their green and orange paint scheme the most. The silver and orange is pretty nice too. But I think the green and orange is my favorite. And then I used to see Santa Fe a fair amount. So I like Santa Fe. I've already mentioned I really like Rio Grande a lot. To the point where I almost want to get a book and read all about Rio Grande, because it seems like they must have a good story. They all have good stories, don't they? So, but there's just something about the Rio Grande paint scheme. It's simple, but it's just cool. That orange on black and the speed lettering. There's just something that really appeals to me about that. So anyway, I've got a few of the next ones I'm going to show you. So I'll set them up down here. Unfortunately, they're all the same road name, except one, but they're all different road numbers, which is something that Exactrail is very good for. They'll come out with a model, and instead of just putting out, 3 road numbers, they'll come out with 8 road numbers or 10 road numbers. But my point is, it's enough to get enough of these things where it doesn't just look like the same thing over and over again. So here's what we're looking at here. These are, if I remember right, Evans 5277 single door boxcars in Burlington Northern and then Rock Island up here. And these are, again, we looked at a 5277 a little while ago, and it's the same thing. It has all the same, brake detail underneath. You can see that. Separately applied stuff, brake wheel, thin stirrups. They're just really nice models.
I want to know if you have any Santa Fe in your collection.
Any Santa Fe what in my collection? Santa Fe anything?
I guess so. That's all they said.
Well, you've already seen some. That one weathered boxcar was a Santa Fe boxcar. The one that I'm going to end up donating to the SBHRS layout.
And you have something else to share.
The BX177 that we just saw a minute ago, that red boxcar, that's a Santa Fe. But I do have a Santa Fe locomotive. We're getting to that. It'll be here soon. I'm just having to put these things away carefully because I don't want to break anything. So, next up, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take out the ones that are different.
Trevor's on.
Which one? Trevor? What's Trevor doing on? Tri-tip, Trevor?
Tri-tip.
Conductor tri-tip? Trevor should be on. He doesn't have anything better to do. He has to work tomorrow on the real railroad. All right, so here we have Thrall 20. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not Thrall. This is a PS 4427 grain hopper. So Pullman Standard 4427. And 3 road numbers. I'm trying to see what's up with this one. It looks like it has a... Oh no, that's part of the logo. I was looking at this... Let me switch angles here and you can see what I'm looking at. I was looking at this little... Well, it looks like a silver line here. And it's actually part of the logo. So anyway, these are from Exactrail. And these are also, once again, very nice. All separately applied stuff. The roof walks on these are especially nice. Isn't that cool? Oh, hi Dave. Nice to see you here. Separately applied stuff underneath. Great discharge gate detail on these things. Metal wheels. Body mounted couplers. Super excellent. See the brake wheels, a separately applied piece there. These are some of my favorites right here. I have another one sitting in the box that's another BN. But once again, I started to mention that when Exactrail does these models, they have a lot of different road numbers. So I got a couple of BN ones when I ordered these. But these are those are just really nice models. Tell you what, we're getting to the really cool stuff here in a minute.
Trevor says, try a tip of conductor. Tri-tip's great service.
Oh boy. Oh boy. As he says. Oh boy. You like high cube boxcars? That's what we're looking at next. These are some exact rail high cubes that I'm putting out on the table here. I wish I had unlimited funds because I'd have a lot of these. These are cool models. Check this out. Yeah. Right? Gunderson high cubes. And let me turn this one around here so you can kind of see this. I want to show you the brake wheel on this thing. It's pretty cool. Separately applied brake wheels, separately applied parts, lots of great detail underneath. Right? Isn't that cool? I mean, it's just, I don't know. Something else I really like about the exact rail models is that they use screws instead of those bolster pins. You know how the truck kept falling out of my other tank car there? That wouldn't happen on this because they're screwed in. And the other benefit to having a screw-in truck like this is you can create a 3-point suspension on your cars, whereas with bolster pins you can't really do that. You have to take the bolster pin out, tap the hole, and use a screw on it. And for anyone wondering, I'll get to the 3-point suspension in a minute, but I do want to point out that these also have the body mounted couplers and metal wheels. So they're just, exact rail's just top of the line. And I'm not saying that
Who makes those high cubes again?
exact rail makes these. And I'm not saying that to put anybody else down. I'm just saying that because exact rail is just really good. So 2 things. I mentioned about a 3-point suspension. And what that is if you have a car like this and the trucks are both loose, meaning they rock this way, when you put it on the track, it'll wobble a lot. And it really looks dumb because real trains don't go down the track looking like this. Unless they're on the Iowa Pacific track when we were chasing the Polar Express train a few years ago. Tri-tip Trevor will know what I'm talking about. There was a part of the track in Santa Cruz where the cars were really rocking and rolling, like the track needed some work. So anyway, to fix a wobbly car, you tighten down one of these to where it doesn't wobble this way, and then you leave the other one loose enough to where it does wobble a little bit. And that will make it so that the car doesn't rock when it's going down the track. So anyway, we'll look at the Wisconsin Central one, also nice. And we'll look at the BN one, also really nice. I think this Burlington Northern one is one of my favorites.
Falkenberg says you should weather some of those. Hint.
Oh, well, I will. Look, everything that you're seeing is basically new out of the box because I only started weathering stuff, last month. And my goal is at some point to have everything weathered. Now, it's going to take me some time because weathering takes time and because I'm still learning weathering, Just because my first tries came out okay doesn't mean I'm an expert at it. Dave's actually really good at weathering. We should tell the people on there to talk him into coming onto the channel to do a weathering project because he's very good and he does N scale too. So, top secret information. What's he called on here?
A real difficult name called Dave Falkenberg.
Oh, he's Dave Falkenberg? That's awfully creative. So, everybody watching, you see the guy on the screen called Dave Falkenberg? Harass him to do a weathering video for TSG channel because he's really good at it. I've seen pictures of the stuff he does. I was going to say he's a nice guy too, but I don't want to butter him up too much. Anyway, so here's the next one. This is a long gondola. And if I remember right, this is the 3564 Thrall gondola. And this is an exact rail model. And what happened was they had a sale on Gons sometime in the past 2 years. And this was one of them. And for some reason, I just thought, I want some gondolas. They weren't terribly expensive, and I didn't have any. And, well, do I need an excuse? Do I really need a reason to want trains? I don't think I do. I think you guys get what I'm saying, right? But you can tell, again, it's kind of a more modern paint scheme because it has those stripes on it that I was talking about earlier.
Thank
Is he thinking about it? Yeah, well, we'll do it under false pretenses. We'll say that you're coming over here to do a hike with us on Friday, but we'll end up doing a weathering video. No, we should definitely do the hike we were talking about earlier. You'd like it. It's a bit of a challenge though, so if you're not up to the task, we'll have to go slow.
We'll have to weather instead.
Yeah, we'll have to weather instead and drink some beer. So here's the separately applied brake wheel. This is a truck-mounted coupler. It's metal wheels, and what do you know? It has all that amazing brake detail that I expected you to see when I turned it over. Isn't that cool? As a matter of fact, let's just set it down and look at this. And you can look at this while I'm getting the other Gons on the table here. I got a few. Well, you know what? I have 6 other Gons that are smaller ones that I want to show you that are also exact rail. But I'm only going to pull out a few of them because, you know, once you've seen one, you've seen them all, right? So these other Gons are 2743 Gons. And these are, you remember what I was talking about before? When Exact Rail comes out with a model like this, they do it in a bunch of different road names and a bunch of different numbers. So I ended up with about 3 of these OSM, the blue ones in the back. Let me bring that to the front so you can see it better. I ended up with 3 or 4 of those, all different numbers. And, you know, just like the other Gon we were just looking at, it has all the brake detail underneath. It has, you know, separately applied stuff, metal wheels, body mounted couplers. These are just great models. I mean, well, it's unfair to do this, but you know, let me just I'm going to do something here.
Ricardo, I think
I'm going to do something here.
he's international. I can't remember where he's from, but
So,
how would you weather the inside of a gondola?
I don't know if you can tell the difference here. And to answer the question, I don't really know how I would weather the inside of a Gon. I think I would probably put a load in it.
Someone here live in the chat would be able to probably recommend.
Yeah, I don't know. Dave might know. Dave might have an idea about weathering inside interiors. I've never done that before. I've never weathered the inside of a Gon. What I wanted to do, and like I said, it's kind of an unfair comparison, but I'm just curious what this would look like if we put this. This is that junky one, the old Lifelike one that I put on the screen a while ago when we first started. But look at the difference on these things. Is it easy to tell how much better the detail is in the Exact Rail model and how crude this other one is by comparison? Can you tell there? It's kind of hard for me to tell because the screen that I'm monitoring this on is so small.
Oh yeah, Falkenberg says Jason Hill mentions all sorts of good hints for gondola.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Jason Hill is from Owl Mountain Models, and we've done some programs with Jason on the channel here about weathering and detailing and upgrading stuff. And he actually would be a great person. He has a blog too, Night Owl Modeler. I think if you search for Night Owl Modeler, you will find Jason's blog, and he has all kinds of great stuff on there. He's a cool guy. I like Jason. So somebody was asking about whether or not I hadn't had any Santa Fe, and I'm thinking that they were probably concerned about the fact that we haven't seen any Santa Fe locomotives yet. So this will be a happy coincidence for that person. This is a GP39-2 that was made by Atlas. This came out, I think, about a year and a half ago, something like that. And it has DCC and sound. It came with it. I had to get a drink there. This is one of the first models that they came out with when they started putting DCC and sound in their N scale models. And it's just a really cool model, and you know, I've got to tell you, it sounds really good too and runs really well. You can probably find, if you look for it, the product spotlight of this model, or I should say the N Scale Friday episode, because that's what it was. And it's just a nice model. It came with a separately applied horn casting, And the paint on it, this is another one of those paint schemes, you know, kind of like the Rio Grande paint scheme. I really like this look. So, but this is the lone Santa Fe unit that I have. Do you know what I was originally thinking about doing when I was setting up this program? Was I was going to have a live track and drive these locomotives into the picture, or, you know, run them into the picture and then run them out of the picture. But I decided against that because I thought it was going to take way too long to do it that way. I mean, look at how long this has already taken. It's been an hour and 40 minutes already. And we're getting pretty close to the end, though. Pretty close. We still have actually a fair amount of stuff left. I'm going to put these next ones out here together because they're both GEs. And they're from around the same time period. There's a B23-7 and a B30-7. And let me get these, whoops. Let me get these on the screen here for you. And one of the cool things here is let's do this one. I added DCC and sound to both of these. These came as just DC models. And so this is the B23-7. This is the B30-7. And your spotting features there is the cab. You can tell the cab on the B23-7 is a bit more plain than the cab on the B30-7. The B30-7 was a newer model. And I put these out here together because I have run these together at the SBHRS layout just because they're kind of, you know, the same era, the same make, you know, manufacturer. Not Atlas, but GE. And I just thought that they looked good together, you know, back to back. And I've run these, you know, both as having the SP in the lead and also as having the UP in the lead. These are kind of, they're kind of on the edge of the as far back as my interest goes. So I like them though. They run really well. All these, I mentioned it before, that all these Atlas models, contemporary Atlas N scale, have great low speed control. And I don't know if it has to do with the fact of the kind of decoders they're using, or I don't know why. They're just really good.
Are you done with that
oh,
box?
Yeah, I have some SD35s. Here they are.
Yep.
Let me grab the SD35s. One of these goes in that box. So this is kind of cool. There's an SD26 and 3 SD35s. And I might take these out of the box, but I do want to show you these because there's a story with all this stuff that I'm about to show you. This is what I consider my main runners, because this is the power and the livery and everything that I really like the most. So the 7240 is an SD24, and it's a Fubi. Southern Pacific never had SD24s, but I like it because it was my first ever N-scale freight engine that wasn't that Bachmann one that I showed you much earlier. It's my first ever Southern Pacific N-scale engine, and it's the first one that I ever added DCC and sound to. So it's kind of special to me that way. That's this guy back here. And it has a lot of very good detail in it. This is Atlas, by the way. I don't remember if I mentioned it. But it has the air tanks on top, separately applied horn, just good detail all around. And the handrails on this are pretty thin also. But that's a really special one to me for those reasons. I got this one more recently, and I mean, you know, within the past couple of years. And I did an N-Scale Friday, you know, spotlight on it. And then I was talking to my friend Gary. I don't know if he's still here or not in our chat here, but he was getting rid of a bunch of his N-Scale stuff. And so he sent me a list and says, hey, do you want any of this stuff? And he had 2 more SD35s. The one that you're looking at is an SD35, by the way. And he had 2 more. So I looked at his list, and I found out that neither one of those 2 was numbered 6924. So I asked him if he would, sell me these or trade these to me. And so what we did was we worked out a deal where he got a GP9 in HO scale, which works for him. And then he sent me these 2 gave me in trade these 2 SD35s here, which I'm going to be able to run with my 3rd SD35, and that's going to look really cool. They're all different numbers, so it works. So I'm really looking forward to it. I still have to put the decoders and speakers in these 2, but I have the decoders and speakers here. I just have to get around to it. Now the good news is adding a decoder and a speaker into one of these models doesn't really take that long. So if theoretically, if I really got motivated tomorrow, for example, I'm not going to do it tomorrow, but if I wanted to, I could have both of those done easily in one day. Because I've done enough of these where it's kind of down to a science for me, and I know exactly what needs to happen and how it needs to fit in there and all that. So one of these days I'll get around to doing that. But there's the whole sort of conundrum though, which is, as I said before, I don't have anywhere to run these right now. So I'm not in any big hurry to get them working. These have been sitting up in my cabinet, in my sort of to-do cabinet for quite some time now. But I will get around to it, and when I do, that's going to be a cool power lash up, isn't it? Can't wait to see that running at the SBHRS. So let me put these Southern Pacific SDs back in the box, and we'll go on to whatever's next. Uh-oh. This one goes in that box you put away. And so does this one. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to do this because there's too much of this to look at all at once.
Put one of these out. This one's open, this one's
Here.
open. And put
Let's do this.
containers on them.
Let's do this. I'm going to set it down like this. I'm not going to actually take it out. Oh, maybe I will take it out. It's going to fall out. So I was going to show you what I did with this. You see the wheel sets in there? This came with plastic wheels. So I've already put my metal exact rail wheels on it. And you guessed it. Oh, I'm over here like you can see what I'm showing you. I need to switch the camera angle for you to see it. It's a well car, okay? And I added the exact rail metal wheels to it, and I took the plastic ones that it came with off. And this is actually a Microtrains product. I have some Atlas ones too. This is another Microtrains Southern Pacific well car. You can see it in there. I, again, took the plastic wheels out, put the metal wheels in. I just kept the plastic wheels in here in case I ever want to put them back for some reason. I don't think I ever will, but that's why it's like that. And then I have some Atlas well cars as well. Huh, no pun intended. The Atlas well cars, I'm going to try to do this without taking it out of the box because they're just well cars, right? There's not that much to see here. These came with metal wheels and also are very nice. You can find the N-Scale Friday episode that I did on this. It's a 40-foot single well. Okay. And then I have another one that's a 53-foot single TTX. You've probably seen those before out on the lines. And then another one that's a 53-foot. This one's for St. Mary's Railway West. I don't know if you've seen those before. But I'm just going to set those aside here for a minute. And let's bring the well car back in. And I'll show you all these crazy containers I have. So JTC is a company out of Florida, Jacksonville Terminal, and they have a whole line of intermodal products, and it's a lot of it's stuff I've never seen out on the road before, but they're legit. I looked up pictures of these things, and these are for special loads, like you might see a large boat or a tractor or something tied down on one of these things. And they also have little ones for 20-foot loads. Oops, I don't know if I can get this to lift up. Oh, there we go. And JTC also has magnets in them. So when you stack these things, you can see there's a magnet there. So that when you stack these things, they stay down on top of whatever you put them on. So I forgot what they called these. It probably says on here, container assortment.
I think Container Man is excited that you're showing.
Yeah, Container Man probably knows all about these things. This is right up his alley. So it says on the box, but it's too small for me to read without my magnifying
Here.
visor.
I'll read it.
As soon as you tell me what it's called, I'll be like, oh, that's right, because I remember. I just can't think of it right now.
Which part do you?
Just tell me what they all are.
202616 Chronos blue flat rack.
Oh, flat rack. That's it. They're flat racks.
Right.
Yeah.
Flat racks.
Yeah. So
Do you need that anymore?
no,
That's fine.
I'm done showing you the flat racks. They're cool though. And then I got a bunch of other containers. Now some of these are Atlas, some of these are JTC.
Oh,
I
nice stuff.
might even have some Athearn. I don't remember.
Didn't you put containers on these?
No,
Cute little
that's
ones?
not how those work. So some of them are JTC, some of them are Atlas, and some of them are Athearn, if I remember right.
Container Man says the bulkhead ends fold down to stack more to move around.
Yeah. I know that the bulkhead ones get stacked on top of each other sometimes too for transport, so they're pretty cool. Then we have these others. Got a bunch of these containers. This is too big to fit that car. I thought it was. But this is going to be kind of funny when you see how many containers I have. And you'll also realize why I ended up buying the other containers, because of how many of these sorry, not the other containers, the well cars. So I have too many containers. I mean, look at all this. Oh, there's more. This one will fit here. There's more.
Steve 87th PSAP says you see a lot of these going to Alaska out of Seattle on barges.
Really? I wouldn't have known that.
Cool.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about these intermodal containers is that they have little pins under them. And there's some name for it. I don't remember offhand. PSE pin or something like that. It has something to do with how they line up so that they actually stack. And I'm putting more of them out. There's a lot more in the box. But I'm not going to put them all out. There's too much. To give you an idea, that's about maybe
Both colors.
that's maybe half of them.
But
Oh,
these
no.
colors are nice.
That's less than half. So I have the makings for a fairly decent stack train if I wanted to, but the well cars are expensive. So I have enough well cars to use maybe about half of my containers. So I can't do too much with this. You get the idea though, right? You guys seen enough well cars?
Container Man says containers. Don't ask how many I have.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
I'm calling the containers well cars. I think I'm starting to get tired. So I do stuff like that when I get tired. Yes, I know what a container is, and I know what a well car is, and I know the difference, and I know that the containers go in the well cars. I'm just tired now, so my brain's freezing up. So this is going to take me a minute to put all these away. And I'm sure I'm not putting them in the right
No.
slots or anything.
Okay.
But we have a special top secret assistant container handler to do this. Okay. Is this really the end?
Yeah.
Oh, we're at the end. I got to put all these well cars away, though. So the last piece that we're going to look at is my Amtrak long distance train. Oh, I shouldn't have told you. I should have made it a surprise, huh? And that's also kind of special to me because the P42s that you're about to see were the very first ever N-scale locomotives, good ones, that I bought. But they're also the first ever that I put DCC in. So I'll be switching to that camera here in a minute. But let me get all the... Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to put all the cars out. I'll put out the ones that matter. The ones that are different from others. I'll put a little assortment out here. 'Cause I actually have 9 coach type cars and a baggage car. So it's a full N-scale long distance Amtrak train. It's just, and the other thing to mention about that is that they're different now because they discontinued use of the parlor cars. So the long distance trains are a little bit different now. And one of the models that I have in this little collection you're about to see isn't exactly right, but it was close enough. So here we have the two P42s. I put in Digitrax decoders into these, and I did that just because they were easy. I knew that they were just board replacement type installs, and they were very easy to do. To be very bluntly honest, I'm not that happy with them. They're not as good as any of the other decoders that I've installed into other models. No, I'm not saying that to trash them. I'm just saying that to suggest that it would have been better to use a different one. They probably would have sounded better and performed better. The biggest problem I have with these decoders is that they lose juice. And even though they have a capacitor in them, it doesn't really do the job of keeping it running like it should. So I'll be trying to run this long distance train and it loses power. And then it has to go through the entire startup sequence again. And that takes 5 or 10 seconds, even with the capacitors that it came with. So I can't say I'm terribly happy about that. But whatever. It's still special to me because those are the first ones that I ever installed into locomotives. And I have a video series about that too. If you search for, I think it was John's Models P42 Amtrak or something like that, N-scale, you'll find the install videos I did about those. The cool thing about that series though is that there is a road test where I took the long distance train to the SBHRS and ran it on the layout. And that was pretty fun. It looked really good.
What manufacturer are the passenger cars?
Oh, the everything that you're seeing right now is Kato.
Yeah, that's it.
So the P42s are Kato, so they run like Swiss watches. Kato has, I think, the best mechanisms out there. They are so smooth and so quiet. So anyway, you have your observation, I think is what they call this one. Observation car, I think. I don't remember. And the next one is, I think this is a diner. Pretty sure. And then the next one is just a regular coach. Also Kato. And then this is the one that's kind of weird, or different, I should say. This is actually a phase 2 baggage car that's correct for the 1970s or early 1980s, whenever phase 2 came out. And the reason I used this is by Rapido, by the way. And the reason why I used this one is because at the time, nobody was making an accurate, updated baggage car. The long distance Amtrak trains have been using like a new baggage car that no one made a model of. So, and then they painted it in this sort of phase 2 paint scheme. So I use this as a stand-in, and it looks good. I mean, it looks very similar to what I'm used to seeing, like as the Coast Starlight or the California Zephyr or whatever. And because this is a Rapido, I'm going to show you all the crazy detail on it. So we've got all this little separately applied stuff. Some of this stuff might be molded. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's so finely detailed. And then, of course, there's your Rapido style underbody. You're not going to see this kind of stuff on most passenger cars in N scale. I mean, I've seen cars by other manufacturers and nothing compares. The other cool thing here is that we have body mounted couplers. So, and there's some bird or some weird noise coming in from outside. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's annoying. It's annoying the crap out of me. Well, I'm glad it's not one of my kids.
Brent wants to know if you'll ever stick to a specific era.
I don't know that I'll ever stick to a specific era because I like too much different stuff. Now, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go out and buy a bunch of stuff that's totally irrelevant to me. I won't do that because I can't really afford to, you know. And even if I could afford to, I don't want to store all that stuff. I mean, I've known people who all they do is buy stuff and store it. That's not fun. I'd rather not do that. So if I ever get really serious and want to do a layout or something, I will definitely pick an era, and I will definitely pick a place or something that's like a historical fiction, like a Proto-Lance place, because I'm not going to get sucked into buying stuff just because it's cool and then never being able to use it because it's the wrong stuff for my layout. So that just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I would like it because it's cool and everything, but it's too expensive and it's not productive for me to be, you know, getting a bunch of irrelevant stuff.
Well, if you had a ton of place for not just storing it, but for displaying it.
I guess you could do a collection, right? Yeah, I guess you could do a collection. I don't know. Right now, my main interest is in stuff that's, you know, from the 70s up through the 90s or something like that. I mean, because I could see that a lot of the older equipment, like the SD35s, they could be running on a local or working in a yard or something like that back in the 80s and 90s. Just depends, I guess, where. And it doesn't have to be, you know, too specific. I've noticed that we still have a lot of people on here, but we've also been going for 2 hours. So if you want, we can do a little Q&A thing or something like that, and then we'll wrap this up no later than maybe 20 minutes at the most from now, something like that, unless the questions are really good. So are there any other questions that people were doing? And what I want to do here is I'll just open this up to anything. It doesn't have to be about the collection. I will say that there was one other car that I saw that I have that I didn't bring in here because I didn't think it was relevant enough, and it's another Rapido baggage car, and I don't remember what agency it was for, but you got to see that baggage car. I figured that would be enough.
Container Man gave lots of information
On containers?
Work and stuff, so.
Yeah. Do you know, I would like to someday have someone who's very knowledgeable about intermodal operations talk about containers and well cars and all that stuff, because that's what we see most of out there these days. It's what I see most of out there these days. And I don't know that much about them. I know from learning about the containers from JTC, when the Jackson Terminal Company, because they sent me a whole bunch of containers to do product spotlight on. And when they did, I was overwhelmed. You know, I didn't know that there was such a variety of different containers out there. Like, I had never seen a flat rack before. I still haven't seen one in person, But when I saw it, I was kind of blown away. Like, what is this? And I thought it was fictitious or something at first. But it's a real thing that they use. And I found pictures of them being used in service, mostly from other countries. But I was just really surprised to see that. And I know that they're used in some places here in the States. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to get that truck to stay on that tank. I don't know what's wrong with it.
Brandon says, "Talk to me about Patreon, John."
Oh, is it Brandon Bader? Is that who that is?
No,
Oh, I bet it is Brandon Bader. I haven't heard from him for a while. I was surprised he wasn't on the Jack Burgess thing last night or yesterday. Is it Brandon from Georgia?
Someone was asking if that was going to be available. So the full Jack Burgess thing will be available to Patreon members, right?
The Jack Burgess visit from yesterday?
The full thing?
That's going to be available to patrons only. And
No edited version for...
well, I haven't decided yet. Jack said that he was okay with releasing it to the public, but if I release it to the public, then it's not really special, is it? Well, edited how?
Give 'em like half.
No, if I do it, I'm gonna put the whole thing out. I haven't decided yet, but I'm in the process of editing that for the patrons right now, so that anyone who wasn't able to be there can still enjoy it. Because Jack has a lot of really great stories and a lot of experience in a lot of things. He talked mostly about modeling stuff, which I think that's what you'd expect because that's kind of what we're focused on in the channel. But yeah,
You could talk YV history with them as well.
you could talk all kinds of stuff with Jack. He knows about restoration because he's part of the restoration group, the Society for the Preservation of Carter Railroad Resources at Ardenwood. He's been involved with that for a long time. I know that he has helped Wes quite a bit on the YV 330. Ardenwood is in Fremont, California. If you look on Channel 2, TSG Channel 2, you can find a video that I did about Ardenwood on the Bay Area Day Trips series. And he did not talk on that. As a matter of fact, one video just came out recently that was about rail fare. It came out this month, I think. So, and I got that truck back on the tank car. The only problem now is that I don't have the box for the tank cars.
This box
So,
right here.
yeah, it's the other one that we had. Yeah, we're gonna be spending probably another 30 or 40 minutes afterwards cleaning all this up. But I do think that I didn't count the number of pieces of equipment here, but I think that the N-scale collection is at least as big as the HO, isn't it? See, I got them all put back together. Oh, so does anybody have any questions about video production? Or thing is, I don't have a lot to talk about things going on right now because we're still in a pandemic situation, and I keep seeing news stories about the record number of increases in cases of the COVID thing. So I'm not comfortable going places because I don't want to give it to anybody. That's really my thing. I don't really care if I get it because I have a fairly good constitution and don't get sick very often or very easily. But I don't want to give it to anybody because it could be deadly, right? So I am going to probably get out to Roaring Camp sometime in the very near future because I learned that there's a guy who works at Roaring Camp named Phil Reeder who had a new builder's plate made for one of the locomotives there, and he's going to install it sometime probably this week. So I will go to try to document that and maybe get him to talk a bit because that's sort of a long-term project that he promised Georgie, the person who owned Roaring Camp for the longest time, and she died a few years ago, and I think that Phil wanted to get that done to fulfill the promise. So I'll probably try to document that and maybe get him to talk about it a bit on camera. That should be a nice thing. And I was thinking about maybe trying to get out to Watsonville in the near future, because our friend Trevor, who may still be on here, is working out there as a conductor temporarily while their regular conductors, there's something wrong with his neck or something like that. What a pain in the neck, right? So other than that, I don't really have a lot of stuff I'm going out to do. I'm hoping in the near future to be able to do layout tours again, because I think if people have been isolated themselves, and you have also been isolated, the risk, and if you're wearing a face mask the whole time, the risk of passing anything to somebody is very minimal. At least that's what I've been reading. So, what else do you have there, assistant producer? There's like 70 people watching. There's got to be some more questions or comments, or is everybody just talking to themselves?
There's a lot of chat going on.
Okay.
They're nicely helping each other out and talking to each other.
Oh, good.
I was just gonna say.
I've been going on so long that my screensaver came up on the computer back there.
They do. Lots of people like Jack stuff.
Yeah.
There's interest in an intermodal program, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I think there would be. I think that an intermodal program could even be a model railroading 101, but it's more like prototype railroading 101, because I want to know about the real containers. Containers really have, I think, have really changed transport, because you don't have different types of boxcars and reefers and all that stuff. Everything kind of goes into containers now. So you have tank cars, hoppers, and container trains. That could be all you really need. I mean, other than special loads or, garbage gondolas or something like that. They even haul dirty dirt in containers. So, because it has to be contained. So, I learned about that from Warren Johnson. Warren Johnson is a guy from Salt Lake City area who worked for Union Pacific for decades in their Salt Lake City shops there. I think they call it the Warm Springs shop, or Warm Springs shop. And he posts pictures to the TSG Multimedia Facebook page regularly. Very good pictures. It's mostly Union Pacific stuff. And he had posted some pictures of some containers I had never seen before. And they were just sort of oddly shaped. I mean, they were still rectangular and all that, but they were weird sizes, and they didn't go on regular well cars. So I asked him, what kind of containers is that? And he wrote back and explained that they haul dirty dirt in those contaminated dirt, right, from cleanup sites, or sites that are being cleaned up. And I had never seen them before, so I learned something from him about that. I bet he would be knowledgeable enough to do a video about containers too. But he's in Salt Lake City, or near Salt Lake City, so that's kind of not probably going to happen. Oh, this is good. I'm glad there aren't a lot of questions, because I'm hoarse and tired and burned out.
Yeah. We're kind of talking about what stuff gets hauled in containers, and
Yeah.
Container Man saying lots of trash.
Oh, so trash goes out in containers, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they haul
I
others.
thought the recycling and all that kind of stuff was not going anymore overseas.
Yeah, they used to haul aluminum and scrap metal and stuff to China in containers. So, but I think that some, policy that's been instated by Trump at some point was to not do that anymore. So, like, for example, at least where we live, our aluminum recycling centers are mostly all shut down because there's no demand whatsoever for
Even though
cans
we're
and all that.
charged.
The what?
Even though we pay.
Yeah, we pay
buy it.
when you buy, beverages in California, whether they're plastic bottles or aluminum, there's something called a deposit, and I would think most states must have this, and it's like 5 cents a can or something like that. but there's nowhere to turn them back in now. I mean, we can put them in our regular old recycling that gets taken away once a week by our trash people here. But then you're just throwing away the deposit. So it seems to me like there should be some way, whether it's at a supermarket who collects your deposit in the first place, you ought to be able to take them back to the supermarket who took your money the first time and get paid back for them. I know in the old days when I was growing up, that's how it was. You would buy bottles of Pepsi or something, and there was a deposit, and you could take the bottles back to the store and get cash money for them, and the people at the store would take them back. I don't know what happened to that. So, anyway. I'm trying to think if we have...
Drew 22 wants to know if you would ever do anything East Coast models or...
I don't know what that means.
East Coast railroads.
Do what East Coast?
Like layouts or...
Well, yeah, eventually. The thing is, travel is involved, and travel is very expensive.
Making layouts.
An East Coast layout?
Do you have your own personal interest
Yeah,
in...
I don't think I would ever make an East Coast themed layout, because I don't know enough or care enough about East Coast railroading necessarily to do something like that. I have seen some really, really nicely done New York Central layouts and other East Coast themed layouts. I don't know. I might. I don't know, because I really like Chessie. I really like the Chessie cats. The cat.
Probably
like
if
that.
you had a chance to go visit some of them.
Yeah.
You might feel a little...
I would feel more compelled to do something like that if I experienced one in person that really just floored me. And, actually I have seen some, but, most of the East Coast layouts that I've seen are Steam era. And I'm just not really that interested in Steam era stuff. I mean, I like Steam, don't get me wrong. I like Steam. I like going to see real Steam engines run. I like Steam layouts. But for me personally, you'll notice in my HO collection and in my NCO collection, there's not a single shred of Steam. It's just not something that I'm that interested in.
Are those the things right there that were in that box? Someone was asking. They must have come late. What's in that box to your left?
This box here?
Yeah, it's empty, but what was in it?
This was the train set that I purchased a number of years ago, and I'm in the process of weathering all the cars that came with that train set. And I would really like to sell that Dash 8 that I installed the DCC and sound into. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. You can contact me, podcast at TSG Multimedia or John at TSG Multimedia, whatever. And let me know if you'd like to buy that, because I don't think I'll run it. It's just too modern for all the other stuff that I have. And if I ever wanted to run it, I'm going to have to get some other modern locomotives. And to be honest, if I get some other modern locomotives, I'll probably just get Kato or, some newer but better branded prototype.
Just there's quite a few questions about the box to the left of you.
Really?
They've come late, so.
Well,
just show them the picture on the end of it. Look at the end.
Oh, yeah.
This left end, there's a picture.
There's one on each end.
Um,
This is what was in it. It was a train set. It has a Dash 8, C40-8W, a gondola, boxcar, hopper, another, I don't know if it's a boxcar or a reefer, and then another hopper, and then a caboose. And when this stream is all done and processed by YouTube, you'll be able to go back to the beginning and see it was the very first thing we covered in the collection today. Something I would like to mention, because it came up recently, and I don't remember what I was doing that made me think to look at it, but for the past 6 or 7 years, I've done something called the annual Steam Special. And that's where I would take, from some place that I went that year and made kind of a special video about it. And one of the best ones came out in 2018 or 2017. No, 2018. That was the Nevada Northern. And it is absolutely one of my favorite, I guess, documentaries, train documentaries that I've produced for the channel. And I just watched it again. And if you're new to the channel or haven't seen it, would urge you to go see it, because it's a really good documentary. It's not very long. It's, maybe 30 minutes, but it has some really great information in it and some really great shots in it. So if you have a chance, check that out. It's definitely one of my favorites, and I'm my worst critic. So if I like it, it must be pretty good. That's how I look at it. So is there anything else? It looks like there's still a lot of people in the room.
Yeah, quite a few.
Still talking. I feel left out. They're all talking to each other, and no one's asking me questions. Yeah, but I have to end. When I end the stream, the chat room goes away. So
For a while.
yeah. So why don't we do this? If nobody else has any more questions for me, I'm gonna put the picture back onto the tank cars here, and we'll let it run. For a couple of minutes or something, 30 seconds, whatever. Let it run for a little bit so people can say goodbye to each other and all that. And I'm going to be back on the podcast here a week from Saturday. And I have a really great, pretty long interview with some guys. Actually, maybe I'll just tell you about that while we're wrapping things up here. So the Santa Cruz Portland Cement number 2 is an 040T that was built by Porter in the early 1900s. I think it was 1909. And Porter made these 040s for service in very remote places, like at a mine or a quarry or something like that that's far removed. And so they made them as easy to work on as possible. So everything's really accessible. And there was this Santa Cruz Portland Cement number 2 worked all over the place for decades and decades. And then it ended up near Stockton, just north of Stockton, I think, at a place called Pollardville Chicken Kitchen. So it was a chicken restaurant. And it was a billboard there. And I remembered growing up, I would see it there because I grew up out near Stockton, and it was right off Highway 99 on the east side of the highway. And you'd see every time we'd drive between Stockton and Lodi, which was quite frequently, I would see it. And this guy, Stothy Pappas, bought it. And it was really in bad shape. Like if you saw it sitting outside at Chicken Kitchen, you would think, this is not something that would ever run again. I can see why they have it here, because it's never going to run. That's how bad it looked. So he bought it, and he's a wizard with that stuff, and he restored the whole thing from the top to bottom, or bottom to top, whatever, from the ground up, and got it running again. Well, so he got it running around 2013 or so, somewhere in that range, 2014, and I first saw it here at Niles Canyon. They did Steamfest 3 in 2014, where I met him and saw they call it the chicken. And so it's on that program, Steamfest 3. You can get that on the tsgmultimedia.com website. And so he ran it at Steamfest, and then he ran it in Santa Cruz as just a special excursion for a day or two, something like that. It was one weekend in, I think, July of 2014, June or July. And then it went back to Washington, and I don't think it really has run that much since then. Well, I've been working on a video about the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad out in Folsom, California, which is near Sacramento. And recently, the chicken was transported to Folsom for the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad. And they're going to eventually run it there. So the video that I've been working on, I found out last year when we went there that they were going to be getting steam. So I put that video on hold until such a time as they get steam, so that I can go film the steam, and then I'll have enough footage to finish the video. And that might even end up being our next steam special this year. I don't know. It's still too early to know for sure. Anyway, so the locomotive moved to the P&S VRR. So I got Stothy and a guy from the P&S VRR, Eric Olds, who's their vice president right now, to talk about what the move of that locomotive means for the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad. And it's a really good interview. So that's going to come out on the podcast on July 4th. And I'm pretty excited about it because it's a pretty important move. Anytime steam moves anywhere, it's pretty important because restored steam is a big deal. And so that interview will be out on July 4th. And then there's another interview that I'm working on that's about the Southern Pacific 1744, which is a 260, a mogul that has been moved, most of the parts anyway so far, to Niles Canyon. So that's a project that they're going to finish.
About what state, more details
What state?
about where, because you have international people who don't know.
I'm sorry. Sacramento is in California in the United States. Stockton is south of Sacramento, about 40 or 50 miles. Lodi is a little bit north of Stockton. And I grew up in that area. So that's what I was talking about. If you open up a map of California and just search for Sacramento and then look south of Sacramento, you'll see all these places. And if you're looking for the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad, that's east of Sacramento a little bit. Look for Placerville or look for Folsom. They operate out of Folsom. So, and Folsom is Folsom. Anyway, as I was saying, the 1744, the Southern Pacific 1744 is moving to Niles Canyon. And they've been looking for a Southern Pacific tender engine like that for decades. So they finally got one. And it's probably going to take them, 5 or 6 years to get it up and running or something like that. But it's there, and that's a project that's going to be in process or is in process now. So I'm working on getting an interview with 2 or 3 of the main guys that are involved with the steam department at Niles. That will also be a very interesting interview. I mean, these are all guys that I've known for years now. And anytime there's a steam event, they usually call me, which is really great because otherwise I might not find out until it's too late. If I find out about something a month ahead, though, I can put it in my calendar and then I'm good for it. So I'm talking to them about doing an interview. You might remember on the last podcast, I talked with Alan Segworth, who is one of those guys. And I talked with him earlier this week. And we're working on doing a little video conference with Alan and 2 or 3 other, or Alan and 2 other guys, 1 or 2 other guys, to talk about the importance of the SP 1744 moving to Niles Canyon. So it's a pretty big deal. So anyway.
Ricardo, who I think he said he was from Argentina.
Argentina, right.
He's always keen on Amador Central and SP.
Oh yeah, Amador Central is a little bit east and a little bit south of Sacramento. So, I mean, it's actually a fair amount east and a fair amount south of Sacramento. It's almost straight east of Lodi. I think it's a little bit north and east of Lodi. And yeah, Amador Central, if you like Amador Central, you could watch the layout tour of the Amador County Model Railroad Museum. That's a layout tour of a layout that's in Amador County and features historical elements on its layout of Amador County and the Amador Central. So you might actually enjoy that layout tour, Ricardo, if that's what you're into.
Miguel Chavez says...
Oh, Miguel.
He wants to know if you would ever go to Southern California to do some chasing Santa Fe 3751 when it's back in service.
Yeah, maybe.
It'd be a combined trip with some other things.
Yeah, I have to get out to Southern California anyway because there are some layouts and some groups in Southern California that have layouts, like modular layouts and stuff like that. So I do have Southern California on the radar as a destination, making more contacts in Southern California. And there's a lot of really excellent modeling that goes on down there. So that is definitely on my radar. With the pandemic and the virus and all that stuff, there's no telling when that can happen. But it's definitely something that I want to get down there and do. Because I keep meeting more people down there too. And I'm actually from Southern California. I was born in Simi Valley and spent my first 5 years in Simi Valley and Westlake Village. So in a way it's home. To be honest, I'm not particularly fond of Southern California just because of the population density. But I do want to tell Miguel Chavez, thanks for the idea. And this version or episode of, Shelter in Place live stream was for you because you're the one that wanted the N-Scale collection.
Miguel,
yeah. So thanks to Miguel. You get to see that's all my stuff too. I don't have, boxes of projects or anything like that that are just sitting around. I actually am working on everything that I have. I'm really looking forward to eventually weathering these tank cars because I've seen some tank car weathering done, and it actually seems fairly easy to do to make them look very realistic. So that should be fun eventually.
Oh, Miguel's in Corona, California.
Okay.
He's part of a model train club.
Oh,
there.
cool. Yeah, I probably know someone that Miguel knows out there. I don't.
Dyson used to live in Simi Valley.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Hey, maybe we knew
They're
each
like
other and didn't know it.
brothers.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, John, I wanted to mention this to you, Dyson, that I know that you're having your hips worked on, and oh, is it happening Tuesday? But you're doing one at a time, if I remember right from reading the posts on Facebook. But I wanted to invite myself to go chasing trains with you when your second hip is done and you're almost ready to go back to work, so you're actually mobile at that point. I want to come out to Newman and go chase trains in the valley someplace. So you need to let me know. No, don't rush it though. Make sure that you're going to be cleared to go back to work like within a week so that we know you're good enough to go out. And let's go do that. We'll do a special chasing trains in the valley. And I want to do that because also Jamie West, who might have popped in or might even be on now,
What's his name?
also wants to go out. He's Northern California Rail Productions or something like that. I don't remember the exact name, but it's something like that. But Jamie's been wanting to come out to the valley too. So, to that area, and probably we could go to Modesto or into the valley to the BNSF line where there's a lot more traffic and catch some trains. Maybe. I don't know. That would be a good one because Dave knows John. I mean, we were all there. So
John says that's a deal.
yeah,
Brother.
yeah. So let me know when that happens. I mean, I'm thinking that hip replacement surgery usually is a 6-week or so recovery. So, and if the pandemic is still on, we may not be able to do it because, like I said, I have to be especially careful, and I know you do too, about catching something like that with your pre-existing medical conditions, right? And I do not want to catch the virus or give it to anybody else, especially to someone that it could be very fatal for. So very, very fatal, not to be confused with not so fatal, but fatal still. There's only one level of fatal. The only difference is how much do you suffer. Anyway, okay, I'm going to switch this over to the cars and get out of here. We've been going for more than 2.5 hours. I'm going to say one more thing and then I'm going to go. And that is, every time I do another one of these streams, it's longer than the last one. And I can't keep doing these because it's going to...
People said they like to just hang out on here.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't end.
Yeah, but I mean, what am I supposed to do? I can't stay on here forever.
Turn on your camera and chat with people. It's just people hanging out and chatting.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well,
It's like what people used to do with their model clubs. Or
right. And I get that. Something that we're doing with the Patreon page is turning into a community. I mean, there are enough people on there, and I've been doing it once a month, something called a virtual hangout with the TSG train crew. So if you like this, where you can chat with people and whatever, sign up as a train crew member. It's as cheap as $2 a month. And what's cool about the train crew get-togethers is everybody's on video. So it's more like a face-to-face deal. It's not just me talking and then everybody else text chatting. It's everybody on video conference. And I'll tell you what, I would do those maybe even as often as once a week if we have enough people there and enough people interested, because I think that there is a community aspect to the hobby that gets overlooked by a lot of people. And if I can provide that, I mean, not everybody who's on the TSG train crew is going to be joining every time, but enough people do that it makes it interesting. Like yesterday, when we did the video with Jack Burgess, I think there were about 25 people on there most of the time that he was talking. And that ended up going for, I think, about an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. And at the end, we were down to like 10 people or something like that, but we were just hanging out and talking like what you're saying you like to do, like what's happening right now. The difference was that it wasn't just me on screen, it was everybody on screen chatting with each other. And I think that that's a really good opportunity to make connections too, because for example, now I know where Miguel lives, so if I ever go down there, I'll be talking to him first and saying, hey, what ideas do you have, what layouts maybe want to do a layout tour or something like that.
By the way, he's cheering that he set a new record.
What, a new record
live.
of launch? I'm fried.
Tom McAdams wants to know if posting photos or sending them to you on the TSG Facebook. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me mention something about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've been talking here at the TSG Intergalactic headquarters about starting a segment on the podcast and I haven't fully fleshed it out in my brain to figure out how to do this or what it will be specifically, but something like, catch of the month, where if you saw something really cool, and it wouldn't have to be from the last month, it could be any time. Like if you have a picture of something that was really cool, like say you got the 4014 and or 3751 5 years ago, last time it ran, and you got a really cool picture of it, to send it to me, and I'll put it up as the catch of the month or something like that, or catch of the week, whatever, fresh catch, I don't know, whatever we come up with. I haven't figured that out yet, but so yeah, if you have a picture, it would be better to send it to podcast@tsgmultimedia.com, because if you send it through Facebook, it won't be as good of resolution as if you send it through email. And what I want people to do who want their pictures shown, well, first of all, make sure it's your picture. I'm not saying that it's not, Tom, in your case. I'm just saying make sure it is, because I don't want to put somebody else's picture and then have someone else claiming credit for it, because that's not cool. And I'm not saying that anybody here would do that. I'm just saying, make sure it's your own picture and a description of what it is and when. And then I'll include that on the podcast as, here, this picture was sent in from Tom McAdams. And I remember Tom because it's THOM. I've seen him on the chat before. And, it's the XYZ locomotive. It was taken on, July 2nd, 2019, when the locomotive was going through wherever it was going through. And these can be from anywhere in the world. As a matter of fact, there's one guy in Australia, Rowan, and I think you say his last name Kinane, but I don't know. It might be Kinani or something like that. It's Kinnane. He was a TSG train crew member for a number of months. And he's been sending me photographs from Australia, because he's finally able to get out and do some rail fanning down under. I guess their pandemic is under enough control that they're allowed to do that. And I've been meaning to write back to him. I'm guessing he'll probably end up watching this at some point. So if you're there, Rowan, and you hear this, you can feel free to email me. But to include some of his pictures, because they're down under. So if you live in Europe, or you live in Australia or New Zealand, or anywhere in Asia that has trains, or anywhere that has trains, and you want to get a picture included on the podcast, send it to me, podcast@TSG Multimedia. I'll be making another announcement about that, probably on the podcast that's coming up in a couple of weeks here. And I'm seriously wanting to make it a video thing as well. So if you got a really cool video catch, but I'm kind of hesitant to do that because it opens up the door to people taking other people's videos off of YouTube, and I wouldn't know because there's a million train videos on YouTube, and the last thing I want to do is post a video that was sent to me and not knowing for sure myself that the person who sent it to me actually took it, and then posting it and then having someone else getting all angry with me like, why are you using my video? Right? Because that would really suck, and I know how I would feel if someone took my video and posted it someplace else, and how I would feel is it's not cool to do that. So anyway, I'm just trying to figure out ways to do it. I would think that if people are Patreon members, then at least there's a verification that they're actually who they say they are. So maybe I'll just open that up for Patreon members or something. I don't know.
But photos could be sent to you.
I think photos can be sent to me for now. Just make sure you own the photo. And
your real name along with any screen name you use.
Yeah, that would help too. I don't know if you can hear Top Secret Producer, but so, Tom McAdams, I'm assuming that's probably a real name. If it's not your real name, please put what your real name is. If you don't want me to use your real name, tell me what name you want me to use. Do you see what I'm saying? So like me, my YouTube channel is TSG Multimedia. So if I sent a picture to me, I'd say my YouTube channel is TSG Multimedia, and my real name, and I would say what my real name is. That way, you get a plug for your YouTube channel. Do you see what I'm saying? Because it gets in front of a lot of people on my channel, and if it's, I won't be able to use every picture that gets sent because I can just see it now. I'm going to get like 100 pictures tomorrow and be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't show all these, so. Don't be butthurt if I don't end up showing your picture, but anybody's welcome to send them. I'll pick whatever I like the most for whatever reason and share it. Maybe I'll share a few pictures and just have it run like a little slideshow, 10 pictures or 12 pictures. It depends what comes in. So I'm glad somebody mentioned that because chances are I'll forget to put that into the podcast next time because I got so much. Even though we're locked down, I still have a ton of stuff going on. I'm attending probably half a dozen video meetings every week, whereas before I was attending 0 video meetings every week. And the video meetings, even though you don't have to get into the car and go someplace, they tend to take a lot of time. So anyway, we're dwindling down a little bit here, but it keeps popping back up again.
There's a few more people that have just joined.
Oh, really?
Have to be like, just
wow.
Go back and they can't do it immediately because it takes a few minutes for the video to
Yeah, I think it does take a minute for the video to reload onto a YouTube. I need another drink. I'm getting hoarse.
Somebody said, oh, you mean we're not going to get a 24-hour marathon of TSG?
If the price was right, I would do that.
Yeah, I said we'd have to get some friends in to drop in on that.
We'd have to have guests showing up, and there would have to be bathroom breaks too.
But
I haven't been drinking a lot because I don't want to really have to go.
Andy brought up the fact that the NMRA 10 Gateway 2020 live stream is coming up July 12th to 18th.
Yeah,
for 15 hours a day.
The NMRA X. I don't know how many people watching have seen this, but they've been doing virtual clinics and such, and you can find out by looking up NMRA. I think NMRA X. If you search for that on Facebook, you'll find it, or just look for the NMRA. It's all over the NMRA's Facebook presence. You can find these. Now, some of them, the video's not, it's not like this, right? This is full HD. It's clear. You can see everything. You can hear everything. Not everybody does video production as work. I do. So I'm sensitive when I see something that's not up to the same standards that I like. So it's hard for me to watch those, but they're good though. The topics and the level of knowledge from the people presenting is really top notch. I've found that most things having to do with the NMRA are like that. So one thing I do want to mention is that if you're not a member of the NMRA, I've talked to a lot of people who aren't, and I think, at least what I've heard mostly, the reason why people don't is because they tried to be a member and then they had a bad experience with somebody. And I would encourage you, if that happened to you, to try again, because not everybody's the same all the time at the NMRA, and your local chapter may have some turnover. Maybe the people aren't doing trains anymore, or maybe they're not with us anymore. Because the NMRA is a really rich resource of people and knowledge. And at least my local regional NMRA here, the Pacific Coast region, is just full of really great people who are so excited to help and willing to help. And if they don't know something, they'll put you in touch with someone who does. It's just been an amazing experience for me. And, getting connected with all these different people who know all this different stuff is really worth it.
Well, make your region or division what you want. You need to be involved.
Well, right. I was going to say that.
Sit back and complain. You need to be part of
Yeah.
part of it.
I was going to say that. The other thing about it is what you make it. Because, if there's something about your chapter or region that you don't like, you can be the change that you want to see in it. It doesn't have to be however it is that you don't like. Volunteer to be one of the officers and try to get it to go in the direction that you like.
And it doesn't have to satisfy all your train needs either.
Yeah, that's true. Our top secret NMRA member is making some good points here. We should just put you on the chair.
No.
I could read the comments on the video, on the chat, and you could sit in the chair for the next 3 hours.
That human city or humanity junction person already suggested that I could fill in while you went to bathroom breaks.
Oh, see? See, now you're talking. She's camera shy. That's why she's top secret. Surely you guys must realize this by now. She's not top secret.
They might all be seeing me soon, though.
Oh, right. If we do the video of her making the, what? Where are they going to see?
NMRA, if they're members.
Oh, yeah. If you join the NMRA, you'll see her in a article on the next NMRA. When is it? August?
Supposedly.
On the NMRA Roundhouse, I think that's what it's called. They put her in an article. They didn't even ask me. They put her in an article. All the work I do, and she's building her first model. They should put me on the cover. That would sell a lot. That would really make it popular. People would be ordering. They'd become members of the NMRA just to get the dartboard.
All right. They all know that I actually run the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's all right.
No.
Let them think that. Top secret associate producer has a lot of great ideas. As a matter of fact, I'll let you in on a little secret. We were talking earlier with Dave Falkenberg. He's probably gone now because he gets busy and doesn't have a lot of time to sit around watching stuff like this. He's going to come out probably on Friday and hike with us. We've been going on hikes or walks for 20 years here where I live. And a lot of the best ideas on the channel came from her. For example, Model Railroading 101, that wasn't my idea. That was her idea. Because she didn't know anything about this train stuff. So we would talk on our walks, and she would say, oh, you should do this. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the viewer that I want to talk to, because I want to get as many people involved in model railroading or interested in trains or history or preservation and all that stuff as possible. So when there's one other person that you're working with at the time who was very narrow and very disconnected, doesn't really know anybody or do anything, or want to do anything, you know what I mean? Like just being negative all the time or whatever. That's not conducive to making these things accessible to people. So she would say things like, well, what about a show that's introductory, I think the name was my idea. Model Railroading 101 sounds like a class. Like Philosophy 101 is the introductory to philosophy when you go to college. So Model Railroading 101, which I think has been overused now that I know it has been. I didn't come up with it I did come up with it without having seen it before, but it's not something unique to me. But anyway, so that's how that happened. And when I brought the idea to Dan at the time, he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. So then we did it. So, a lot of stuff happens that way. And I don't know, I really think that my branching out to trying to do some of this stuff myself really was my idea. That's when I started doing John's models at the time, when I did the installs of the DCC into those P42s that we looked at earlier. And then later on, after Dan quit, I started doing more of that stuff because I wanted to learn how to do it too. It's not that hard. And I want to show people, I didn't have the slightest clue how to do this. I learned how to do it by watching other people and reading stuff on the internet and seeing other videos or whatever. But you try it and you're just like, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty easy to do. Just like the weathering. It wasn't that bad. It was pretty easy to do. So, and there's going to be more stuff like that as we go on. Like I said before, eventually I'll probably build that module. I need to figure out before anything else can happen, I need to figure out what exactly I want to do with it. Because I don't know right now what I want to do with it. I'm thinking, Freemo or something. That way I can take it somewhere and connect it up with a bunch of other modules and run it and display it and have people see it, Yeah, or like she said just now, build something and then give it to somebody, like a Freemo group, for example. That's one other thing. I was talking to Chris Palomares, who was with Athearn. He recently retired from Athearn and is becoming involved with Caboose Hobbies in Lakewood, Colorado. Well, I was talking to him because we stay in touch, and he said that he wants to do videos with me about Freemo. So I haven't talked to him more to figure out what exactly he wants to do, but I'm very interested to hear what he has to say about that. Because we did a layout tour of his Freemo group at the NMRA, the National Train Show last year in Salt Lake City. You can find that video here on the channel if you search for Freemo layout tour National Train Show or something like that. And I shouldn't say I was surprised, because there are good modelers everywhere. And I know from our own local modular groups that there's a lot of really excellent modeling that happens in the modular groups. As a matter of fact, one of the guys I know, Robin, is a very talented modeler. He does mostly N scale. And he was just here last week. We did a
private show and tell.
Yeah, we got a private show and tell of a lot of the projects that he's been working on. And he does a lot of really interesting stuff. He has all kinds of unique, unusual loads for flat cars and stuff like that. And he's one of very few people that has a live overhead operating module that he operates with the Peninsula Amtrak group at all the local train shows here. So he's one of those guys that does really good modeling, and he's part of a modular group. Well, the Freemo group in Salt Lake City at the National Train Show had some modules on it that were pretty breathtaking. So I know that there are modular modelers who are very, very talented and do good work. As a matter of fact, when we were filming the layout tour in Salt Lake City of that Freemo setup, one of the guys, his name was, I think, Jerry Bill, or Bill Jerry. It was something, it was a name that was two first names together. I think it was Jerry Bill. Super cool guy. And he had modules that he was showing me. And as we were going through this process, a couple of guys came up from, NMRA muckety mucks came up. I don't really know. I couldn't tell you who they were. If I saw them again, I might recognize one of them. But anyway, they came up and were talking to him saying, have you thought about the achievement program? Because just looking at your modules here, it looks like you've ticked off most of the boxes to become a master model railroader. So, and that was just at that show. So that's the level of modeling that takes place on some of these modular groups. And it's very impressive. So, and that kind of also ties into what Miguel Chavez was talking about earlier about going down to Southern California. One of the groups in Southern California is a modular group, and I need to reconnect with them, eventually when I get down there, to make that part of the stop, because they have some place where their modulars are set up semi-permanently or something like that. I just don't remember all the details, but I have it in my email somewhere. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because it's been over 3 hours and I am just toast. So thank you everybody for watching. If you can part with $2 a month, consider joining up on Patreon, and we'll get that Patreon virtual hangout as a regular deal, once a week or once every 2 weeks, and you can make connections there. And you never know who will show up. There are some really, really talented and great modelers who are patrons on the TSG page. A lot of the people that I've done layout tours with end up signing up as patrons afterwards. So, for example, Dave Stanley, Dave Connery, all the Daves, Dave Adams, Jack Burgess, Jim Diaz. These are all guys with really top-notch layouts. And if you're a modeler who wants to learn something and you happen to see one of these guys on a TSG train crew hangout, you could ask them questions. Maybe you could even get to go see their layouts in person. I'm not inviting anybody to their houses right now, but I'm saying it's a way to connect with people, especially if you're not going to sign up for the NMRA, because that's the other great way to connect with people, is to sign up with your local NMRA and go to the meetings. So anyway, that's all this time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your continued support watching the channel, and please continue. I'll see you sometime soon. We're going to have a picture of the tank cars here for the next 20 or 30 seconds, and the stream will end. So take this 20 or 30 seconds to say goodbye. Thanks again. I'll see you guys.